Zheng Zha always felt that he was dead in reality. Go to work, come home, eat, go to bed and wake up. He didn't know where the meaning of his life lay. It was definitely not in that face of his fat supervisor, not in that white-collar woman's body that he met in the bar, and not in this steel and concrete forest, the modern city. Zheng felt he was rotting. He was going to rot from the age of 24 till the end of his life, then become a part of the earth and leave behind a name. No, not even a name, since no one would remember him. No one would remember a little white collar. Whether he lived as a truly graceful person or just pretended to be one, he was just a tiny piece of this world. He wanted to change something. He wanted to have his meaning. Want to know the meaning of life. Want to live a real life. When he turned on his computer at work today, a message popped up. This was obviously some newbie hacker seeking attention. It would force you to download a virus, whichever option you choose. Zheng laughed at it and was about to close it. Yet, his heart skipped a beat when his hand touched the mouse. He paused. Want to know the meaning of life. Want to live a real life. Zheng felt a little lost. An indescribable force attracted him to put his finger on the mouse. Then he clicked on the yes button and lost consciousness. Cold, shaking. The moment he woke up, Zheng jumped up from the ground. He looked around in panic. The disparity of the vision of his office and the current environment caused a chaos in his head, but after a few seconds he woke up from the confusion. Not bad, you have the best quality of the bunch this time. A cold voice said. Zheng turned his head around and saw a black-haired guy sneering at him. This person was around 24 or 25, had a very common face, but the few scars on his face made him look horrifying. Black-haired guy held a cigarette in his hand and took a deep smoke. His vision then looked past Zheng. That was when Zheng realized there were 5 people lying beside him. 3 men and 2 women. Other than that, there were over 10 Westerners in this concealed room. This was the compartment of a train and the train was moving very fast. The feeling of coldness and shaking were coming from the train. Where is this place? Who are you? Why am I here? Zheng asked these people. Furthermore, due to the presence of Westerners, he repeated it in English. The Westerners looked at him for a moment then turned their heads away. Only the black-haired guy said to him, think carefully, it should have inserted everything into your head. Think carefully. Zheng tried to recall everything. He only remembered when he saw the pop-up on the screen, want to know the meaning of life. Want to live a real life, and clicked yes, before he fell unconscious. Wait, Zheng felt there was something in his head, something about survival in life. This was a game. Whoever created this game was not known. Maybe it was God, maybe it was the devil, or maybe they were aliens or humans from the future. Now he had become a player of this game, or maybe part of this game. A game that brought together those who were lost in life but have yet to become a rotten person. When they chose this game they would be transported to various scenes in horror movies. It is Resident Evil 1 this time. 1. Your luck isn't bad, newbies. Getting such an easy horror movie on the first time. Even when you die it will be an easy death. The black-haired guy took his last smoke then crushed the cigarette in his hand. Are you saying only our consciousness came inside the computer? Just like in movies. And when we complete this game our consciousness will go back to our bodies? A chubby dude next to Zheng asked. Black-haired took out a gun, a Desert Eagle. While handling the gun he said, I don't know if it's consciousness or not, but you will feel pain, you will get injured, and you will die. And you were wrong, when you finish this movie, you will go to the next one. Maybe you have seen that movie or maybe not. Every time, God will bring in new members to replace those that died in the last movie. Every movie consists of 7 to 20 people. In other words, this is a very easy movie, we only have 7 people here. Chubby dude said with a sneer, how do you know those who died didn't go back to their body? Perhaps they chose to die willingly. Black-haired raised his head suddenly, as though he had become a panther in this moment. He bent his knees and in a split second he's already on top of the chubby dude. His Desert Eagle stuffed inside the chubby dude's mouth. Then would you want to try and die? Can you imagine that unending terror? I lived through 3 movies. The first one was Nightmare on Elm Street 1. 2. There were 15 newbies in that movie and 2 experienced survivors. But do you want to know the ending? They all died in their dreams. Me and another person were the only ones that survived. Do you want to know how it feels to get killed by a stupid dream? Imagine everything around you becomes slithering rotten meat. You watch as a pair of scissors slowly cut through every bit of your body in a gruesome factory. Can you imagine the pain? You piece of shit, do you want to die? Black-haired was shouting like a madman. His intent to kill was so vivid and obvious in his eyes. The chubby dude was scared and unable to move. And with a gun in his mouth, he couldn't even plead. Zheng and the other 4 people persuaded them to break apart. Black-haired walked back to his seat and said, dying in an horror movie is a real death. Furthermore, when you die here you will be tortured by the devils in these movies. So if you don't have determination to live, I advise you to kill yourself now. A girl with glasses said, then we don't have a way to return to our bodies. Black-haired said with a sneer, I have been saying it's not your consciousness that came into the computer. Do you think humans have the technology to create this game? No, this is the work of God. We are nothing more than bugs in his eyes. We are thrown here to struggle just to entertain him. Both our bodies and consciousness have been brought to this world, and can't go back. At least I don't think we can go back. The glasses girl had a sense of calmness. She thought for a moment and said, by your tone, it seems like there's still a way to go back. Black-haired took a look at her and said, the quality of this time's newbies isn't bad. You're right, there is hope to go back. Everyone stared at him. Every time you finish a mission that is you live through a movie you will obtain 1000 points. You can exchange these points for a lot of things, such as the right to live in a movie for 100 days. Black-haired said. A middle-aged guy said, who would want to live in a horror movie? That's asking to die. Black-haired remained quiet. Glasses girl said, no, I think I understand what he meant. There are many genres of horror movies, sci-fi like Resident Evil, where everything can be explained with science. You just have to go outside of where the main events are happening, then the rest of the world is normal. Black-haired snapped his finger, bingo. You can indeed live in another part of this world normally for those days. Think about it, after experiencing a couple of life and death trials, the chance to live normally in this world is a blessing. Zheng's body shivered. He thought he understood the meaning of this world a bit. Yes, the reason he was feeling rotten was because his life was boring. Once you experienced life and death, then the mundane life would become what you wish for. Black-haired continued, other than exchanging for time, there are many other things. Such as this desert eagle with unlimited ammunition. It only took 100 points, that's 10 days of time. You can also use points to improve yourself, including intelligence, mental capacity, reaction time, cell vitality, muscle density, and immunization strength. In other words, if you survive through this movie, you can double your strength. If you live through 100 movies, you can become a superhuman. Glasses girl asked calmly, let's get back to the point, how many points does it take to get back to our world? 50,000 points. Black-haired took out another cigarette. If you don't use any points, you just have to live through 50 movies. Then you can go back. Suddenly, everyone quieted down. According to this guy, if you don't use your points, it would be impossible to live through 50 movies. Of course, 1000 points is the base reward of every movie. You can do side quests in movies to earn points. Like when I explained everything to you, according to God's rule, explaining to newbies will reward 100 points. You should have noticed that special watch on your hand. He waved his left hand. There was a black metal watch. Everyone looked at their own left wrist. There were a few lines of info on this watch. A timer that was counting down from 3 hours 7 minutes. A counter for zombies, lickers, newbies. You will get 1 point for every 10 zombies you kill, 100 point for every licker, and 1000 points for every newbie. He looked at everyone with a wicked face. Only Zheng and the glasses girl looked back calmly at him. Of course that's negative 1000. Okay, if you have any other questions hurry up and ask. This movie is about to begin. Glasses girl looked at Zheng, then continued, I have 3 more questions. I saw Resident Evil, the ending is the T-virus from the lab spreading throughout Raccoon City. Then if we drive this car and leave the city, wouldn't that let us survive easily? Black-haired nodded and replied, take a look at your watch, there's a name on the upper left side, read it. 1. Everyone read it out, then they noticed one of the Westerners had a faint glow on him, then slowly faded away. This is the leader of the mercenaries in this movie. This movie belongs to a specific location genre. The plot only happens in the lab. In this kind of movie, You are not allowed to leave the plot area or stay too far away from the cast. If you stay further than 300 feet from one, then bang, you will have nothing left. Understand? Of course when one is dead in the movie this restriction will be moved to another cast. Black-haired explained. Zheng then asked, who is this god that you have been mentioning? God is the thing that manages our entrance to movies. It gives us points and you also exchange things through it. God is a ball of light. I don't really know what it is either. Glasses girl nodded and said, one last question. This number, what does it mean? She pointed to the timer counting down. This is the time that you must stay in this movie. Once the timer is over you will go to where God is and get your reward. There you will also wait for the next movie. The train started to slow down. Black-haired guy finished his cigarette and took out his Desert Eagle. Okay, the plot is starting. The cast will be able to hear our conversations now. Remember, if they hear anything not belonging to this world or spoilers, 10 points will be deducted for every sentence. Well, newbies, try your best to survive. The train slowly came to a stop. The mercenaries cautiously moved out. Black-haired was the first to follow. The glasses girl took a look at Zheng and the others, and followed them out. As one was moving further away, the rest moved out also. Outside the train was a platform. Zheng recalled the movie. This was the beginning where people wanted to enter the hive, and the entrance to the underground lab. People followed the platform and soon came to the lab entrance, where a metal door blocked their way. On the door was a set of special symbols denoting the company of this lab and the danger of this place. Zheng and the others followed the mercenaries to the door when a woman in red skirt suddenly turned to one and asked, I want to know who you people are and what's going on here. One looked at her then waved to the other mercenaries. They took out some devices from their bags and started unlocking. He then said to the woman, you and I have the same employer. The mansion above us is an emergency entrance to the hive. You are security operatives placed there to protect that entrance. Zheng remembered this scene. This was where Alice asked about the cause of this event. Even though he had seen the movie and knew the truth behind it, experiencing this scene in person gave him a surreal feeling. Alice seemed a little lost. She rubbed her wedding ring, and muttered, what about this? One said, your marriage is a fake. Just part of your cover to protect the secrecy of the hive. And what is the hive? One of the non-mercenary Westerners asked. Zheng recognized this person also. Spence Sparks, he was the cause of this event. A business spy attempting to steal the T-virus. One turned to a mercenary, show them. He nodded, and brought up a screen on the laptop. Raccoon City, nearest urban center. The mansion where we found you and gained access to the train, which in turn brought us to the hive. A building that looked like a bee's hive appeared on the screen. The hive itself is located underground deep beneath the streets of Raccoon City. A top-secret research facility owned and operated by the Umbrella Corporation. Our position on the map is indicated by the heat signature. As one explained, our location was shown on the laptop. We were standing on the platform on top of the hive. Zheng knew this was a safe place but, not long afterwards, this area would become a death zone. And them, Alice pointed to Zheng and the others. Zheng panicked. They thought they were guests of this world and the cast would not interact with them. They would only need to avoid those monsters. Who would have guessed the main character would talk to them? One said, they are also security operatives. Company has their registered files. But I question if there's an error in corporate orders. Aside from one person, everyone else is just ordinary people. This was probably the identity God gave them. Spence then asked, why can't I remember anything? The hive has its own defense mechanisms, all computer controlled. A nerve gas was released into the house. Primary effect of the gas, complete unconsciousness lasting anything up to 4 hours. Secondary effects are varied, but can include acute memory loss. For how long? Subjective. An hour, day, week. Another non-mercenary Westerner said, so you're saying this place was attacked? One looked at him, I'm afraid things are a little more complicated than that. Zheng recognized this cast member also. He was Matt Addison, who came here looking for his sister, a researcher inside the hive. She found out the corporation was researching the T-virus and attempted to contact the government. The person she contacted was Alice. But before she could steal the virus, Spence stole the virus and leaked it. She later got infected and became a zombie. Zheng was thanking the gods. He watched a lot of movies because his life was so boring. And sci-fi and horror were his favorite genres. Knowing what the plot was and who the main characters were would increase his chance of surviving. It's common sense that the main characters won't die whether it's a movie or a novel. At this time a voice came from the door, "Sir, we've breached the hive." One nodded, then he looked at Zheng's group inside. He turned around and led the mercenaries to the door. The door opened under the computer's control. It was totally black inside. One called a mercenary, JD. That person nodded and put on night vision goggles. One paused for a moment, he turned to black-haired and said, "Zheng Zha." Jia took his Desert Eagle and just walked in. Zheng knew black-haired also knew the plot. In Resident Evil 1, as long as the central computer system stayed on, they would be safe there. But once the computer system got shut down, this place would be filled with zombies and hunters. It didn't take long for Jia to turn on the lights. The whole room was lit. You could also see a scenery of the modern city through the window. A scene that Zheng had enough of in his life. The mercenaries and everyone went into the room. A female mercenary said, "Halon gas has dissipated." When Spence stole the T-virus, he broke a vial of it. Then the ventilation system spread the virus throughout the hive. Everyone inside was infected. When the central computer system found out, it isolated the hive and injected halon gas. The only thing left in the lab were zombies and hunters. It seemed like Resident Evil was a popular movie. Everyone in Zheng's group saw it. All of them were leaning on the windows and looking outside. They weren't worried at this moment because they knew this was still a safe place. Matt suddenly said, "Makes it easier to work underground, thinking there's a view." Zheng hesitated a moment then put out his hand, "Zheng Zha. I may be a security operative." Matt's hands were handcuffed because his files were not in the corporation. He turned around with a bitter smile, "Handcuffed? I don't think we can shake hands like this. And I forgot my name." Zheng gave him a friendly smile. Matt was a nice person in the movie. He was also an innocent person. He was just here to look for his sister and he tried to protect Alice until the end of the movie. He was one of the people that lived at the end. On the other side, one and a few mercenaries got the elevator door open. But it was pitch black inside. They threw down a flare and saw that the elevator was at the bottom with the wires cut off. "Looks like we're taking the stairs." One turned to everyone, "Through the stairs, we must reach the bottom in 10 minutes. Everyone follow." The mercenaries were well trained. Alice had T-virus, Spence and Matt's stamina weren't bad either, while Jia had gone through 3 movies already and probably enhanced himself. Of the remaining 6 people, even though Zheng was an office worker, he liked to exercise and spent a day in the gym every week. According to him, this helped him take care of those women. Glass's girl looked skinny and, as a girl, her stamina was weaker than a man's. But she was smart enough to get a hold of the corner of Jia's shirt. So Jia supported part of her weight. He looked at her for a moment then continued moving in front of her. The chubby dude looked about 28. Before long, he was panting, and his speed slowed down. There were 3 more people. A middle-aged man, probably a laborer. He was not running fast but kept up with everyone. A middle-aged woman. She was doing worse than the chubby dude. She's at the point where she's walking step by step. The last one was a boy in his teens. His face looked very common and his body didn't seem strong. But like the middle-aged man, he kept up with everyone. After a while, the chubby dude and middle-aged woman could no longer be seen. Zheng was following close to Jia all along and suddenly heard, "2 out." Zheng asked curiously, "What 2 out?" Jia sneered, "Them. Don't think of my words as a joke. This is a real world. We will die here. Perhaps you are still not taking this seriously and think of this as a movie, right? Being more than 300 feet away from him you will explode, this is one of the rules. They are going to die." Bang. Just as Jia finished his sentence, 2 explosions came from above. Zheng's group looked toward it with a daze, but aside from the stairs there was nothing else. Zheng and the newbies followed the mercenaries in panic. They didn't know what to do. They came from a modern, civilized world and when they'd first experienced these fantasy-esque scenes, they thought it was all just a dream. To be honest, Zheng was rather delighted. After being bored with the real world, he needed some kind of stimulation. Whether it's one-night stands, getting into fights, or even drugs, they were just part of the real world. Once you wake up, you would be back at that boring world. But that wasn't what he wanted. He wanted something more exciting. He was delighted when he first learned of this world. Not only could he experience all these worlds, but he could also enhance himself with points. Because he saw so many horror movies, as long as the first few worlds belonged to movies he had seen, then he would just become stronger and never die. Once he became strong enough and nothing could kill him, he would be able to go to any world and live however he liked. And if he got bored of this place, he would just go back to the real world. That was what Zheng imagined. Until the sound of those two explosions came. It shattered his fantasy. Heaven didn't exist, and this place wasn't heaven. This was hell. He was just a little bug in the eyes of God. Human lives were worth nothing more than just explosions. He didn't want to die. The cast didn't notice those explosions. They didn't even notice two people were missing. When they reached the bottom of the stairs, a mercenary said, "Status. Red Queen is locked onto us. She knows we're here." "Who's the Red Queen?" Alice asked one with curiosity. "A state-of-the-art artificial intelligence. She is the computer that controls the hive." Everyone reached the bottom. Gia turned around and looked at the people panting with a smirk. "Keep going, guys. You're lucky if you live through this. To be honest, luck is already by your side. This movie has a very easy difficulty. One of the few movies where you can solve problems with guns. Once you survive this movie, you will have 1,000 points to enhance yourself." As the group moved forward, laboratories appeared on the sides. These labs were filled with water. Corpses of researchers floated inside. Zheng also knew that these corpses were already infected. Once the central computer restarts, they would be freed from any restraints. "This is going to slow us down. Our route to the Queen takes us straight through these labs," a mercenary said. "Rain, JD, see how bad the flooding is." One ordered. "Kaplan, Gia, find us an alternate route." Gia waved at Zheng's group and went ahead casually. After the four were gone, Spence asked, "What happened here?" One looked at everyone then answered, 5 hours ago, Red Queen went homicidal. Sealed the hive and killed everyone down here. When we realized what was happening, my team was dispatched to shut her down." The main characters looked puzzled. "Why did she do it?" Alice asked. One shook his head, "That we don't know. But outside interference is a possibility." As one was talking, a figure appeared through the window of the lab closest to Matt. He looked closely, realized that was a floating corpse and jumped back. Everyone was surprised, even Zheng's group. They looked toward that lab and saw a pale female corpse. The cast quickly calmed down, but Zheng's group was scared and shivering. Perhaps you couldn't feel it in the theaters, but when you were experiencing this, especially when you knew that corpse was a zombie, this sense of fear was unimaginable. Zheng's mind blanked out, then a hand tapped his shoulder. The slightest sound was enough to freak anyone out this moment. He immediately jumped backward a few feet before turning around to take a look. The glasses girl was standing there laughing at him. "Hey, why don't we introduce ourselves? Since our lives are on the same line." The three men agreed. Glasses girl then said, "My name is Zan Lan, sounds like a boy's name, right? I am an author. Before I came to this place, I always complained about the lack of inspiration. Little did I know I came to a world with limitless inspiration. This is probably retribution, ha." Zheng returned with a friendly smile. "Zheng Zha. I was a manager. Before I came here I complained about the world being too boring and wanted some excitement. Though this place seems a little too much." Lan smiled and shook his hands, "That's what I felt too." The middle-aged man smiled along with them. "Mo Gang, I was a truck driver. Before I came here, I complained about my wife being too stingy, and that my son didn't live up to our expectations. I clicked yes when I was playing online games with my friends, then I came here." At last the boy said, "Li Xiaoyi, high school student. Well, I complained about a lot of things, but this place doesn't seem bad. As long as I live, I can become a superhuman. According to what Gia said, you may be able to retain your powers if you manage to go back. I am tired of being bullied in school. If I can go back, I will kill those assholes." The boy let out a savage expression. The three adults looked at each other. They knew that this boy was probably bullied constantly in school. He was disappointed in reality. It seemed like the common ground for everyone here was being disappointed with reality. Gia and Kaplan came back. When he walked past Lan, he suddenly tapped on her shoulder heavily. Lan let out a scream while Gia walked over to one laughing out loud. Sir, I found an alternate route, but it's gonna cost us time. We double back, cut through Dining Hall B, then we're right back on track. Kaplan said. By now, the other two mercenaries were back also. Sir, no go, the whole level's flooded. One nodded, all right, we're behind schedule. So let's move it. Zheng's group followed them reluctantly. Fortunately, the mercenaries didn't start running again. Finally, they stopped in front of a metal door. They opened the door with a computer and cautiously moved in while holding onto their guns. This was a room with many metal cases. Anyone who watched the movie should know that inside those cases were hunters. Once the central computer closed down, they would be 100 times more dangerous than zombies. A mercenary looked at his computer. Dining Hall B, that's what it says on the map. One walked over to him while Matt chimed in, maybe the corporation's keeping a few secrets down here. One looked at Matt without answering. JD, Rain, and Gia keep the prisoner here and secure the exit. At the same time, a mercenary said, Sir, halon levels are non-existent in this room. I think the system malfunctioned. One nodded. JD, Rain and Gia, there may be survivors. Give me a search line, but keep it tight. The three nodded, but Gia sneered and took out a tobacco. He knew that there were no survivors, though there were quite a few zombies. Lan suddenly walked over to Gia and asked in a low voice, I want to know something, can we change the movie's plot? Gia nodded. Continue, what else do you want to ask? She laughed, can we bomb this place? If we kill all the hunters in this room, then we could gain a few thousand points. Gia laughed with her, you're not wrong. We could get a few thousand points for bombing this place, but I have two questions. First, do you think they will let us do it? He pointed to the mercenaries. They don't know what these are, and don't know what happens after the central computer is closed. If they see us doing something strange, they would probably shoot us first thing. Which may release the hunters earlier. God wouldn't let you change the plot so easily, and even if you did, it will probably increase the difficulty and cause some accidents. Understand? The second question is, what do you rely on the most to survive in these movies? Lan paused for a bit, she touched her forehead and answered, power. No, luck, it's not reliable, probably knowing the plot. Bingo. Knowing the plot is our biggest advantage, so when I am not 100% confident, I won't change anything. And whoever tries to change the plot for points, I don't mind sending him to hell. Zheng was listening to their conversation all along. Then he realized Gia was looking at him with a sense of pity and mockery. As though he was looking at a dead man. This made Zheng very uncomfortable. At this moment, one said, okay, the rest of you come with me. They went through a few doors and arrived at a control room. Of course the Red Queen had already gone out of control. This room could no longer control the whole laboratory. Kaplan turned on 3 computers. His computer skills were definitely first class in Zheng's eyes. His hands were typing non-stop across 3 keyboards, yet several minutes passed and the door leading to the central computer was still closed. Rain asked, what's taking so long? Kaplan replied without taking his eyes off the computer, Red Queen's defenses are in place. She's making it difficult. Just as he finished talking, the door finally opened. One nodded, let's pack it up. Then he turned to Zheng's group, you stay here. Behind the door was a corridor about 10 meters long, with walls made of glasses, different from the steel and metal walls on the outside. One walked in first. He was moving very cautiously, being careful with every step. Even then, when he reached the center of the corridor, his whole body shivered. Because the glass walls suddenly lit up. Kaplan's voice came from the speakerphone, the lights are automated. Nothing to worry about. It's obviously the lasers from the self-defense system. What automated lights and nothing to worry about? Zheng thought. Then as he was about to say something, a hand pulled him. He turned around and saw Lan shaking her head. One finished setting up the transmitter. It was a device similar to a cell phone. He put it on the sensor of the door. Kaplan started typing again. After a while, the door on the other side of the corridor finally opened. One let out a deep breath and waved to the people outside, move up. Alice Sutton asked, what is that? Kaplan was nearest to her, that's what will shut the Queen down. Delivers a massive electrical charge. Scrambles the mainframe and forces it to reboot. As the mercenaries were about to enter the corridor, Zheng couldn't help but shout, wait, wait. Don't you feel strange? This computer seems too useless, just letting you reboot it like this. I don't think things are this simple. There's probably something wrong with this corridor. The mercenaries stopped and looked at him. Lan let out a sigh and took off her hand. Then she moved over to where Alice was. One came out from the corridor and silently stared at Zheng. Okay, you, and you, come with us. He pointed to Zheng and Mo. Their hands and feet suddenly got cold from hearing that. They knew this corridor was a death trap. Anyone that entered will die, even one. He was sliced into little pieces. 1. Zheng finally knew why Jia looked at him like that back there. Yes, he couldn't help but try to change the plot. Yet it's difficult to sway the plot from its momentum. Even when it did change, God would increase its difficulty just like this. Mo put his hands on his head and screamed, "No, I don't want to enter it." As he screamed, he started running back from the way they came. Before Zheng's group could react, the mercenaries took out their guns and shot him. By the time his body dropped to the ground, it became a corpse. Wah! Zheng and Xiaoyi started vomiting. A life was taken away in front of them. Zheng was feeling terrible inside, because he couldn't mind his own business and caused Mo's death. One looked at him coldly. I was suspicious of you from the beginning. Even though your identities were registered in the corporation, you don't seem like a security operative. And now you're trying to stop us from rebooting the Red Queen. Okay, Zheng, come with us. Zheng felt frozen. His stomach was still feeling uncomfortable from the vomiting. One didn't give him a break, grabbed his hands and entered the corridor with the others. Once everyone was inside, just like what happened in the movies, the doors to both sides of the corridor closed up. One and the mercenaries were holding on their guns cautiously, then talked to his speakerphone, Kaplan. Kaplan panicked, some kind of dormant defense mechanism. Opening the door tripped it. Put it back to sleep. Kaplan was sweating, working on it. Hold your positions, everyone stay calm. Zheng was terrified, he knew the plot had started moving and he became part of the plot. As anticipated, the glass walls dimmed, then a thin laser appeared between the walls. This laser started moving toward the mercenaries and Zheng. One was the first to react. He brought down the two people beside him. Zheng was focused from the beginning. He threw himself on the ground when the laser appeared. The laser barely touched his shoulder. He could feel that sharpness and heat passing through his shoulder. Other than this, his mind was totally blank. Medic, medic, one shouted. This brought Zheng's mind back to consciousness. He turned around and saw the medic's head slowly falling down. Then it stood on the ground, its eyes staring at him like a curse. No, no, I don't want to die. Zheng screamed like a madman. As he screamed, his mind felt calmer than ever. He started recalling this scene in the movie. One was holding onto a mercenary who lost his fingers. Then someone shouted, "It's coming back." This time, the laser would start from ankle height. Zheng recalled the details of this scene. He remembered it would move past the first mercenary and curve up when the second mercenary jumped, cutting him in half. He only had one chance. If he failed, the laser would kill him. He didn't know if this part was changed due to his interference, but he could only trust on what he knew. As the laser quickly moved towards them, the mercenary on the ground was killed. The remaining two started backing up. Zheng put his full concentration on the mercenary in the front. 1 second, 2 seconds, it's as though time had slowed down in this life and death situation. He couldn't hear anything, and his surroundings felt like it slowed down. Mental capacity limit broken, rewarded 500 points, mental capacity increased by 20 points, reaction speed increased by 30 points. A rigid and dignified voice sounded by Zheng's ears. But he couldn't hear it. His whole attention was on that mercenary. At last, the moment he jumped, Zheng threw himself on the ground. The laser moved past him, that white light like death's scythe. At that moment, Zheng believed Jia's words. Their whole body was transported to this game, this the work of the gods, or maybe devils. They could die here. The laser curved up as expected and cut the mercenary in half. After the laser passed, Zheng quickly got up. He looked behind and saw through the window on the door, that Lan was standing outside with tears in her eyes. Zheng gave her a smile, then he grabbed one and ran near the door. He could only hope that the plot didn't change from this point on. This laser would stop when it almost reached the door. It was no use trying to dodge it as it will turn into the shape of a net. All he could do was stay near the door and pray. Please follow the plot and end everything. One was struggling to get out of Zheng's grip. Let go of me. This place will get us cut in half. Let me go. Zheng grabbed his collar and said, trust me. There's no way to dodge it this time. Stay close to the door and we can still try our luck. Trust me. The third laser had formed and started moving towards them. Its path was going to cut them in half. One was struggling to get down but Zheng wouldn't let go of him. He had his whole body clung to the door then closed his eyes. Live, I want to live, even if I am in a situation like this, I still want to live. Perhaps his praying reached the gods. The laser quickly opened up into the shape of a net as it approached them. One let out a scream. As he was in despair, the laser dimmed down and disappeared a few centimeters in front of him. He could feel a heat wave touched his face. For a moment, he couldn't believe he was still alive. Zheng opened his eyes. He didn't see the laser disappear but he knew he succeeded. Knowing the details of the plot allowed him to stay alive from the edge of death. He was never this close to death in his 20-some years of life. Death was so close it grazed his shoulders. What's this? As Zheng was thinking about his luck, he found a little ball of light on one's collar. He picked up the ball of light then it disappeared in his hand. A sense of warmth went from his hand to his body, an extraordinary comfortable sensation. Rank B side quest reward. Rewarded 5,000 points. The same rigid and dignified voice appeared. Zheng then remembered he heard something before. It was 500 points and increased mental capacity by 20 points and reaction speed by 30 points. That was like 1,000 points already if you were to enhance yourself, the same amount you would get for surviving a movie. These 5,000 points were like a gift from heaven. Zheng was pleasantly surprised. When the door opened and several people rushed towards him, he was still standing there in a daze. Xiaoyi tapped his shoulder. You're amazing. You survived that. Zheng's thoughts came back to reality. He shook his head with a bitter smile. He didn't even know what to say. It was too much stimulation for a normal person from a peaceful world. Lan came over also. You deserved it. I was reminding you not to interfere all along but you didn't listen. Jia was right. Our biggest defense here is not luck but knowing the plot. Your luck won't always be there for you. Stop being so impulsive from now on. No one wants to die here. Zheng shook his head and didn't reply. He didn't know if he should tell them about the rewards. Rank B side quest reward. What did that mean? Did that mean you changed the plot or saved a cast member that was supposed to die? Or survived a dangerous scene? He didn't know. That was so dangerous just now, he almost died in there. And the middle-aged man died because of him. So he was too afraid to change anything from now on. Jia probably wouldn't let him do anything again. Because no one knows what's going to happen now. Maybe everyone would die here, including the players, the cast, and even the main characters. That's what a horror movie is. No one is absolutely safe. Everyone can die. They are merely struggling to survive. That Resident Evil laser death trap scene can be watched here. After a few minutes, everyone recovered from the bloody event. One thankfully patted Zheng's shoulder. This mercenary leader that was supposed to die in the corridor now lived. This would interfere with the original plot considerably. Of course he may die to zombies or hunters later, no one could predict it. One looked at everyone, then said, we will continue. Continue. Spence shouted, continue what? You kidding me? There's no way I'm going down there. One turned to Kaplan. His face was full of sweat. Yes, yes. I turned off all her defenses. All. One repeated, all, you positive? Without waiting for Kaplan to respond, one picked up the device and walked through the corridor. Kaplan was still typing. This time the door didn't close. Alice followed like in the original plot. After they went through, the door to the Red Queen closed again. Zheng's group looked at each other. They knew they were going to face the theme of Resident Evil, zombies. Lan said to Zheng and Xiaoyi in a low voice, don't get too far away from Jia. Don't get bit by zombies. In the movie, once you get infected you will become a zombie in 30 minutes. I did a rough calculation, the vaccine only works within 10 minutes of getting bit. Remember to stay close to Jia. Since he lived through 3 movies, he will probably survive this one. They nodded. Then Lan suddenly smiled, right, and do you feel disgusted from the murders? Xiaoyi replied first, I felt disgusted when I'd just arrived here. And I wasn't accustomed to this place. But after vomiting before, I feel like I have loosened up. If I do it with my eyes closed, I think I can kill someone. Zheng thought for a bit. He too felt much better after vomiting, especially since he experienced life and death. He got rid of the surreal sensation he had and slowly integrated into this movie. As long as he could survive, killing monsters, humans, he's willing to do anything. Lan continued, okay, then find a chance to pick up their guns. If you see a zombie got separated from the pack, then kill it. These are reward points. Remember, head, that's their weak point. Then the room dimmed down. They knew one had turned off the central computer. At the same time, the defense system that isolated zombies and hunters stopped working. After what happened to Zheng, they didn't dare to change the plot this time and just waited as the central computer was shut down. Then they will have to go face to face with death. In the dark, Zheng could feel Xiaoyi shivering non-stop. Even Lan was shivering. He asked, scared? Xiaoyi answered, yay, very scared. Though Lan said, too excited. Zheng suddenly felt Lan was terrifying. He didn't ask any more questions and turned to the only light source. Silently waiting for what's going to happen next. After a minute, the room lit up again. Zheng knew everything was starting. One and Alice came back from the central computer room. One looked exhausted. He took a look at the corpses in the corridor. We will bring the Red Queen's main circuit back to the corporation first. Kaplan, how's the hive? Kaplan turned to his computer. Good, all defenses are down. We can leave the hive in a straight line. One nodded, okay, then now. Before he finished, gunshots came from dining hall B. One looked at Kaplan, then they ran out of the room. Alice and the other cast followed. Then Zheng's group followed. When Zheng reached dining hall B, he took notice of those cases containing hunters. The lights on the cases had turned from green to red. Just thinking about how many of them were in this room sent goosebumps up his spine. This wasn't something a human could rival. One asked, what's wrong? I heard gunshots. Rain lost a piece between her thumb and index finger. It was bloody and horrifying. Sir, we found a survivor. But he's gone mad, he bit me. One frowned, so you opened fire? Rain shouted in reply, but sir, he's gone mad. He's gone, Jia suddenly said. He looked at the pool of blood on the ground and said, he was here just then but he's now gone. One walked over to the pool of blood. The blood was already half solidified. This definitely wasn't like fresh blood. He felt a bad premonition. One stood up and shouted, we're leaving immediately. Rain felt strange and asked, sir, aren't our orders to wait here for backup after we get the Red Queen's main circuit? One shook his head, there's no more backup. Prepare to leave. Lan walked over to Jia and asked, you just reminded them, aren't you afraid of changing the plot? Jia laughed, you guys are the fearless ones. You changed the plot as a newbie and survived. Look at your watch, one's name is not there anymore. Lan and Zheng looked at the watch, it was blank on the place where one's name used to be. Jia sneered at them, we're free to move from now on. Remember, you can do anything as long as it means surviving. He thought for a moment and added, if I was in your position with the lack of stamina, reaction speed, and weapons, I would follow the group back to the Red Queen's room. At least you will be safe for a little longer. Lan smiled, you're actually quite a nice person. You're just not good at expressing yourself. Jia laughed, niece, don't joke around. I just didn't want you to hinder me earning points. Don't be mistaken, there are no good people in this world. As long as I can survive, I don't mind using you three as meat shields. The tone of his words sent a chill down their spines. At the same time, a metallic sound came from afar. Rain and JD moved over cautiously. After a few steps, a man wearing a white robe came out from the corner. A few people lumbered and stumbled behind him. JD pointed at them, stop there. Otherwise I will open fire. These people obviously wouldn't stop there. They were already infected with the T-virus. Soon after, numerous people lumbered out from all sides of the room. Some were in uniforms and some in robes. Some of them had started rotting, and there were some with totally deformed legs. Zheng even saw one with only half its head left. Stop, I'm going to shoot. Bang. One was the first to shoot at these zombies. A zombie holding a hammer was knocked down. But he quickly got back up. After getting shot over 10 times, it didn't even bleed much. Bang. Jia shot with his Desert Eagle. It blew up the zombie's head like a watermelon. You guys go find an exit. Leave this to me. One hesitated for a while and shouted, "Okay, everyone remain in formation. JD, go find an exit. Rain, keep an eye on the prisoner. Everyone else, follow me." Zheng looked back at Jia. He waited for the zombies to approach, then shot at them all at once. The few zombies closest to him all got shot in the head. His accuracy and speed were way higher than a normal person. Zheng felt he could follow Jia's movements. He had read some books on MMA. There were two types of visual acuity. Distant visual acuity measured how far you could see, and dynamic visual acuity defined your eye's ability to discern fine detail in moving objects. It seemed like dynamic visual acuity was related to reaction speed. He could see Jia's movements clearly, which meant the difference between their reaction speeds wasn't that big. And he was disgusted at first by the blown-up zombies, but he was feeling quite natural now. This was probably related to his mental capacity. It seems like those rewards really enhanced my abilities. Zheng was overjoyed. He stayed calm and followed one. Then one turned around and gave him a gun and 2 magazines. "I can't take care of you guys. There's 15 rounds of ammo in each magazine. Follow what Jia did and go for their heads." Zheng understood it more than anyone. Even though he never used a gun before, he was shooting very fast thanks to his enhanced reaction speed. He was smart enough to only aim for zombies within 10 meters. 10 meters was his effective shooting distance. The other people didn't know about this and just saw him getting headshots without aiming. One nodded and left his back to Jia and Zheng. Xiaoyi saw it and was full of excitement. "Zheng, that was amazing. You're probably used to shooting. How many points was that?" One turned around to him. "Points?" Xiaoyi's face darkened. Zheng knew he'd probably heard a warning that deducted his points. Poor dude was in the negatives before he earned 1 point. One looked at the 3 of them, then turned back to the zombies. Lan patted her chest and muttered, "That was dangerous. I thought the plot was going to change again." Lan actually had a nice body and her face was quite pretty. Zheng and Xiaoyi was staring at her when she patted her chest. She realized it and said, "Is Jia going to be alright? We can't see him anymore." Zheng knew she was trying to digress, so he answered casually, "He's probably alright. He's stronger than us and he has that Desert Eagle with unlimited ammo. Shit, if I survive this I will get one for myself." Lan touched her forehead. This seemed to be a habit of hers. She had a larger forehead than the average person. 100 points can enhance someone's power by 1/10. After I survive I have to ask Jia about the details on exchanges. But we don't have time to talk about this. You should just concentrate on protecting us. She smiled at Zheng. Zombies kept swarming in from all sides. Even though they looked scary, the zombies actually moved rather slow. Under Zheng's full concentration, the zombies couldn't get close to them. But as the number of zombies that died under his gun increased, he was only left with 1 magazine. On the other side, the mercenaries opened the door leading to a laboratory. However, a bunch of zombies suddenly swarmed out and pulled the mercenary who opened the door inside. His last scream was horrifying. As said before, you may not think much of this when watching a movie, but when the same thing happened next to you, that horror was indescribable. One shouted, "Back to the Red Queen's room. Back there." Before long over 10 zombies had moved in between Zheng's group and the mercenaries. As they were stumbling towards Zheng, the 3 could smell that stink. Xiaoyi couldn't help but yell, "Zheng, shoot them, hurry." As the viewers knew, anyone who got bit or clawed by the zombies will get infected. The only vaccines were still in the train. They would die before getting to the train. They were still only normal people after all. Zheng was getting anxious as he saw the mercenaries get further away. More zombies were appearing through the corner, yet his ammo was getting lower. 10, 9, 8. Zheng silently counted the bullets in his gun. Then suddenly the zombies in front of him were dropping down one by one. Jia appeared behind them and shouted, "What are you doing? Didn't I tell you to follow them? Haven't you seen the movie? A licker will appear here." Jia kept on shooting, and without taking another look at the 3, he ran towards where the mercenaries went. Zheng, Lan and Xiaoyi followed. His speed is about 20% faster than us. He probably enhanced his muscles. Zheng was inspecting Jia when they ran. He found that his body couldn't catch up with his thinking speed or reaction speed. It was most prominent when he was shooting. With the addition of Jia, the 4 of them finally arrived at the central computer room. Then with a loud bang, the door was shut and the zombies were blocked outside. Everyone suddenly dropped to the floor. Aside from Jia, they were panting heavily, gasping for air. Even when their lungs were filled with air, the terror kept them breathing heavily. It took a while for the three to calm down. That was not bad. Jia put his gun on the waist and laughed at Zheng. What do you mean? Jia turned around to look at the mercenaries. They were looking at the corpses in that laser corridor. Then he said in a low voice, the most dangerous time for a newbie is usually the first movie. Mentality is the most important. First you have to understand your situation. I have seen many people who thought this was some illusion or a TV program, so they died the fastest. But the three of you quickly adjusted your mentalities. Especially you and Lan, you were the best out of all the newbies I've met. Not only did you adjust your mentality quickly but also overcame your fears. Secondly, overcoming your fears isn't enough to live. You are still only a normal person in the first movie. Even if you know the plot, it's still easy to die. So the first movie also heavily depends on luck. As long as you live through the first movie, you can enhance yourself and exchange weapons, like my gun. After saying all this, Jia took out a pack of cigarettes and handed one to Zheng. Congratulations, newbies, how does it feel to be alive? Ha ha ha. Xiaoyi came over. Jia, give me one too. Jia glanced at him. Don't think I can't smell it. You do not have a hint of cigarette scent on you. If you don't want to die then follow us. Xiaoyi lowered his head. Jia, I am already at -10 points. What should I do? Jia laughed and said, you lost 10 points instead of earning any. Your luck is better than average. Don't worry, you will get 1000 points at the end, but remember, if you are still in the negative after that 1000 points, you will be erased from the world. Then someone knocked on the door. Alice's voice came from outside the room. Open the door, hurry. The mercenaries came over and Jia opened a crack for Alice and Matt to get in. One asked them, how is it outside? Can we go back the way we came? Alice shook her head, they are all over the place. Everyone fell to a silence. Kaplan broke down. We can't escape. There's no other path in the Red Queen's room. We're done. Then Spence said, couldn't we stay here? Once the outside finds out we are missing, they will send backup. I think we're safe here. I don't want to go out and fight those undead. But the mercenaries looked embarrassed. Spence asked curiously, did I say something wrong? Kaplan replied, there probably isn't any more backup. Spence was irritated and grabbed his collar. What do you mean no backup? One side, our orders were to bring back the Red Queen's main circuit and isolate the hive from the outside. Remember the path that goes from the building to the hive? If we're not back there by 3 hours the gate will shut, thus isolating the hive. FCK the corporation, I understand why we received such orders. Zheng's group looked at each other. They also knew what the timer meant on their watches. They had to survive until that gate shut. And before that they couldn't get injured by the zombies, couldn't fight too many zombies at once, and with just a desert eagle couldn't fight a licker. Spence let go of Kaplan but he was panicking. No. They can't do this. Are they trying to kill us all down here? Rain said, this is the safest way to keep the secret of their research. If we all die down here then no one can leak anything out. Her hand was bloody where it was bit. People were silent, then Spence got more irritated. Why are you telling me this now? Why didn't you say this before everything happened? Then Alice intervened, stop arguing. Let's find a way out. We will first find a way out of this room. She picked up the Red Queen's main circuit and went into the Red Queen's room. What are you doing? One asked. Turning her back on. As the mercenaries went away, Zheng asked Jia, aren't we going to take a look? What is there to look at? Not like you haven't seen the movie. You're better off saving your stamina here and killing a few more zombies later. Lan touched her forehead. Oh right, Jia, I have a question. How are we going to go back to God's place? Does it shine a light on you? We slowly fade away, or a path appear in front of us? Jia said, I don't know how we get back. Every time after the mission was over, I'm in the lobby of God's place the next moment. You don't have to worry about not being able to go back when the time comes. As long as you are alive, even if you got infected by the T-virus or something, as long as you still have your consciousness, everything will go away. Similarly, if you lose an arm or a leg you can repair it with just some points. Lan frowned then asked, you mentioned mission. Of course, I said we're merely struggling to survive. Like when we just got here and couldn't leave one. That was a special mission. So that's how it is, sometimes we have to complete some special missions, that's God's way of increasing difficulty. Lan sighed, that's unfortunate. I originally wanted to, never mind. What did you want to do? Zheng interrupted, you mean let us stay here? Lan smiled at Zheng, right. That's what I wanted to do. Like Jia said, we will leave here instantly when the time comes, so we can be at any place unlike the cast. Then why not stay here? I remember in the plot they will go into an underground tunnel and almost get killed by a liquor. Even after they get into the train they are still not safe, then what about this place? Zheng and Jia were surprised at Lan. You're afraid God will give us some mission later. Like make us follow another caste. And if we aren't near them we will die. Right, this is the safest place if we don't consider that possibility. Jia took a smoke and thought for a bit. Okay, we will stay here. God won't give us impossible missions. Like when the mercenaries go away and we have to be within 300 feet of them. Since it's decided, we will stay here. The three were surprised. Zheng said to Jia, you don't have to stay here like us. We are still normal people but you have a gun and enhanced yourself. Why not go kill zombies for rewards? And if you happen to kill a licker that's 100 points. We're only staying here because we have to. Jia forced a smile. To be honest, who the heck wants to be in this place? Anyone will break down from going from one movie to another. This is my fourth one and sometimes I've thought about just killing myself. And I want you guys to live. Sometimes you can't survive by yourself. If there are some experienced survivors other than myself, then our chances of surviving will be higher. Okay then, we will stay here. Think of what to say to the cast. The four of them started discussing until the cast came out. Then they went over to the cast with a smile. Zheng understood. Not only he wanted to live, everyone else was the same. Jia took a smoke then said to one, the four of us will stay here. One was planning to explain to them their next actions, but Jia's words took him aback. He paused for a moment then said, what do you mean? We don't have time to joke around. Jia threw away the cigarette butt and said in a serious tone, not joking. I meant the four of us will stay here. I think you've realized that the three of them are just normal people. They won't be able to keep up with the running you're going to do. Instead of taking the risk of falling behind, it's safer for them to stay here. One looked at Zheng and the other two, he fell silent for a moment. And you, why are you staying here also? Jia shrugged his shoulders. I apologize, but I have gained some of my memory back. These three are my friends so I can't leave them alone. I have to stay here to protect them. The rest of the mercenaries came over. They were looking at Zheng's group with curiosity. One looked at Zheng again. No, he saved my life and I can't just stand here and watch my comrades die. Remember, we are comrades now. Understand, my order is to leave this place immediately. Lan stood up, Captain and everyone. You know we don't have the stamina to keep up with your steps. Instead of becoming a zombie, don't you think we have a better chance of surviving by staying here and waiting for possible backup? If you really want us to die, then I have nothing else to say. One fell silent again. After a while, he said with a dejected tone, I understand. Kaplan, turn on the defense system of that laser corridor. You guys stay in the Red Queen's room, that's the safest place. Wait there peacefully. If we survive, we will report this situation to the corporation. Don't die. Jia led Zheng and the others to the Red Queen's room. Then Kaplan turned on the defense system of the corridor. The lights of the corridor lit up again. The two groups could see each other through the window on the door. They felt a sense of sympathy from each other. After the mercenaries left, Lan laughed. Did you see it? They were looking at us with sympathy. I wonder how they will feel when they encounter the hunters. With three sturdy metallic doors and the defensive system of the corridor, this was a very safe place. At least compared to what the cast had to face. The four of them could finally relax. Jia also handed some cigarettes to Zheng. You can also exchange cigarettes from God. Zheng took a smoke. This cigarette was much higher quality than those he used to smoke. So he asked in curiosity. Jia squinted his eyes. There are too many good things you can exchange from God. I haven't even finished reading through the list. It has 4 categories. 1. Scientific. Such as guns, bulletproof vests, and even some weapons that only appeared in sci-fi movies but they also cost a fortune. They're not something I can afford. 2. Magical items. Like scrolls, Taoist charms, amulets, and swords. Xiaoyi said with surprise, are those weapons like what they have in games? Are they very powerful? Jia glanced at him. I don't know if they are powerful or not, but magical items cost double the points of scientific items. I think you would use them in supernatural movies. Zheng asked curiously, supernatural movies? Yes, like, Jia thought for a moment, The Grudge. 1. The three felt a shiver down their spines. As though there were ghosts hiding in the shadows. You know why I said Resident Evil was an easy difficulty movie? It's because you can solve and explain everything here with science. You can kill the monsters, you can run away. As long as you're not infected and you have a gun, you can survive. A hint of fear crossed Jia's face. He said while thinking of the past, those movies that you can't explain with science are the most horrifying. You don't know when you will die, how you will die, or even if you are still alive. Terror is always accompanying you, as though it wants to drag you to hell. Zheng patted Jia's shoulder. He sat next to Jia and asked, that's Nightmare on Elm Street, right? Jia nodded gloomily. You couldn't imagine what we experienced in that movie. Almost 20 of us died, and everyone's death was miserable. We wanted to run. The experienced survivors led us to rob a car, then we kept driving along the highway. No one dared to sleep, and even if you fell asleep, the others would wake you up. Just like that, we lasted for 5 days. Then a town appeared in front of us. We drove inside the town in joy, then realized this was the town in the movie. And the experienced survivor that was driving this whole time had become that demon. He laughed at us. Jia was shivering like a pendulum. This man that had kept his cool the whole time was breaking down. Zheng tried to divert the topic. Then can those magical items kill that demon? Jia took a smoke and shook his head. I don't know. That was my first movie. I am only alive due to luck. You know where I got that scar on my face? That demon cut it with a pair of scissors. I didn't have God heal these scars because I want to remember everything. If I meet him again, I will kill him. Zheng and the other two looked at each other. They felt a sense of fear. Fear for their future. Jia continued, you get 5,000 points for killing that demon in A rank B side quest reward. That was the first time I saw a side quest reward. Lan asked, what's A rank B side quest reward? Is it important? Jia nodded. We will continue on the third category of things you can exchange. Support items. Like antidotes, drugs with healing properties, perishables like bullets, some sci-fi items like invisible cloaks, and enhancement items. I was overjoyed when I saw the enhancement items. Like the genetic mutation of Spider-Man. The description said it lets you obtain the bloodline of Spider-Man, increasing intelligence by 20, mental capacity by 20, cell vitality by 50, reaction speed by 100, muscle density by 100, and immunization by 150 points. And you also get the web shooter ability. All this for just 2,000 points. Zheng and the other two was surprised. Lan counted then said, the enhancements alone would cost 3,000 points, and you get a web shooter ability. This is too cost effective, why didn't you exchange it? Jia waved his hand with a bitter smile. I did want to. If I had this genetic mutation then I won't be in danger in movies like Resident Evil. But this type of enhancement costs side quest rewards. Rank A reward can be reduced to 3 rank B rewards. Rank B can be reduced to 3 rank C and so forth. The lowest rank is D. I have only seen the reward appear once. It isn't something you can easily get. Zheng held in the urge to tell them he had A rank B reward. He asked, what rank reward does the Spider-Man mutation needs? Jia took out another cigarette. It needs a ranked C reward. I have also looked at a few rank D enhancements. Like Battle Chi, rank D gives you entry-level Chi, but the high-level Chi would require rank B or even a rewards. There's also T-virus mutation, like the one Alice has. It increases intelligence by 20, mental capacity by 20, cell vitality by 50, reaction speed by 50, muscle density by 50, immunization by 100, and the evolution ability of T-virus. It needs 1,500 points and a rank C reward. It's so lucky to be the main character of this movie. She gets it without doing anything. Zheng felt he was blessed. This meant once he lived through this movie, he could exchange for quite a few enhancements. He had some more hope in his future. Jia then said in a mysterious voice, there are also some high-level enhancements. But they are there just to entice you. I won't believe they actually exist. Like the bloodline of God. It needs a rank S reward and 50,000 points. Isn't that exaggerating? There's also cultivation, Taoist method of gaining immortality. It has less basic stats, but you gain special skills. It needs a rank S reward and 70,000 points. Zheng and Lan laughed at his words, but Xiaoyi's eyes flared up. Zheng thought for a moment and asked, and the fourth category? The first three seemed to have included everything already. Jia said with a mysterious smile, the fourth category has the good stuff. You know everyone will break down when they've been here long enough. So the last category is entertainment items. There's tobacco, weed, heroin, these are cheap. One reward point can be separated into 1,000 parts. A kilo of heroin only takes 5 parts of a point. How's that? God analyzed that a normal person only needs about 300 points in cell vitality and 350 points in immunization to inject heroin without constraints. Other than these, you also exchange for time to live in a normal world through this category. There are also music albums, movies, and even women. Jia was laughing hysterically at this point. Zheng said, I am not interested in silicon. Jia patted Zheng's shoulder. What are you talking about? It's real women. God can create real women. They have intelligence, they have their personality, and even memories. When you buy a woman you can choose their face, body, age, race, every detail. You played that artificial girl game, by illusion. This is much more detailed. Xiaoyi's eyes were shining, while Lan snorted. Jia stopped laughing and said in a serious tone, no one knows if they can live through the next movie. So I want to have a woman that I like by my side. You will know once you tried it, she's not a doll. Even though she's a life created by God, she's more realistic than a lot of women in the real world. And she really loves you. You can share the terrors you experience with her. God said once you get enough points to go back, you can keep your enhancements, all the items you exchanged, and this woman can go with you. If I can go back I will marry her. She's the one that I will love with the rest of my life. These words were said with sincerity and passion. In the modern age, people only cared about money and sex. Zheng and the others admired someone that can truly love someone. Lan touched her head. Stop this topic. Gentlemen, there's a lady here. Jia, tell us about God's lobby. What will happen after a mission? Nothing special. You will go to God's lobby after the mission. God is a sphere of light floating in the center. You can communicate with it just by thinking. There are 20 rooms to the side, though they were never all filled. You will have your own room. Only people you give permission to can enter your room. Other than this, you will have 10 days in the lobby between every mission. Lan was going to ask something else when Jia suddenly stood up. He ran to the door and looked out through the window. The rest of them was shocked and followed behind him. But they couldn't see anything in the corridor. Jia turned around and shouted, Red Queen, report what happened outside the room. A little girl's voice sounded, 2 lickers are attacking the outer door. It will last 40 seconds. FCK, I knew things won't be so easy. Those lickers must have sensed our smell. The outer door couldn't block them. Good thing we hid here already. Then Jia looked at his watch. Zheng and the others looked at their watches also. The countdown still had 17 minutes remaining. There were 3 doors in a corridor between the lickers. They couldn't fight the lickers face to face with the weapons they had. Zheng didn't want to die here, especially when there was still hope. He shouted, Red Queen, how long can we last? That voice didn't respond. Then Zheng pointed his gun at the computer. I know you're programmed to prevent the spread of T-virus. In other words, you want to kill anything that has a possibility of spreading it. That includes us, right? Make your decision. Either you protect us with the defense system or you let the lickers come in here. But we will destroy your main circuit before they do. Once you lose control of the hive, how much of the virus will get to the outside world? The girl's voice finally came back. Can I ask why are you still struggling? You've decided to stay here, aren't you going to sacrifice yourself? Lan answered before Zheng could say a word, computers are not supposed to question humans. You have to be aware of being just a computer. Understand, also since we are already here, we won't be able to spread the virus even if we live. Then why won't you protect us, little girl? Understand, the lickers won't be able to penetrate the defense system. At this time, there were loud bangs on the door at the other side of the corridor. You could see the lickers through the window and the metal door was losing its form. Impressive power, no wonder it's worth 100 points. If I had a RPG with unlimited grenades I could be earning points now, Jia laughed. Zheng asked without thinking, how much does it cost? Of course it's going to be expensive. A normal RPG costs 2,000 points. I would rather enhance myself if I have that many. And it isn't effective in every movie. The door had totally deformed, then the lickers, claws ripped it apart and appeared in front of their eyes. They were several meters tall, a whole body of red muscles. They had no eyes, probably sensing targets through heat and smell. Their tongues could extend out 3 feet. Their claws were harder than steel. Zheng looked at the 2 lickers then at his gun. He didn't think this gun could even injure it, not to mention kill it. The lickers turned to them and one started to charge, the second followed. Bang! They could feel the door tremble. Red Queen, Zheng and Jia yelled. At the same time a laser formed inside the corridor and moved toward the lickers. When the lickers were about to charge again, the laser moved past them, then disappeared. The lickers stopped moving, then their upper body slowly fell off. The 4 exhaled. They felt so small in front of the lickers. It would only take 1 claw to take a life. Even Jia was just a stronger normal person. He wouldn't be able to survive against these monsters. Jia sat on the ground and took out a few cigarettes. He also threw one over to Xiaoyi this time. Know that fear and terror. I've experienced it many times already. I don't even know how I got myself through those 3 movies. Shit, this place is unbearable. Zheng and Lan smiled bitterly. The moment the lickers charged over, they reacted worse than Jia. They could barely keep themselves standing with the shivering. Thank God the defense system saved them. Otherwise they couldn't even run away. Keep waiting. This defense system is good enough. We could probably. Suddenly the whole room darkened. They ran to the door and looked out. The corridor was totally black. The power had went out. Shit. The plot. How did I forget about this? You still remember this plot? Jia kicked at the door and started screaming. Zheng tried to recall the plot. This movie was over 10 years old already. Even though he'd seen it he had forgotten the details. After a while, he and Lan both said, Kaplan shut down the Red Queen. When the main characters were locked in a laboratory and a licker was attacking the door, Kaplan turned off the Red Queen to save them. So then the 4 of them lost their defense. The only thing they had left was the last door. They gradually calmed down. They knew that any sound could catch the attention of lickers. So they kept their mouths shut. Even then their breath sounds were still so noticeable in this darkness. Time passed, then a heavy breathing sound came from the darkness, along with the abrasive sound between 2 metals. They didn't have to look to know what's outside. Zheng remembered it only takes a few minutes for the main characters to go back to the ground after the power went out. That was about the same time their mission ended. Zheng asked Lan in a low voice, what's the time on the watch? I don't know. Can't see in the dark. Maybe a few minutes. Few minutes. That's how many minutes? Zheng couldn't open his mouth again. The breathing had approached their last door. Everyone's heart clenched. Then they heard the sound of scratching on the door. How much longer? How much time left? Hurry. Zheng was staring at the door intensely. He held onto his gun, even though he knew this couldn't do anything against the licker. That was the only form of support he had. Bang! With a loud bang, a sharp object almost penetrated the door. Their hearts skipped a beat, then they ran to the back of the room. Even Jia was keeping his body close to the wall. The door started to deform, then finally a claw penetrated it and ripped this 10 centimeters thick metallic door apart like butter. They could see that terrifying face of a licker. Ah! Zheng and Jia started screaming and shot at the licker. They had lost their cool to the horror, and along with the darkness, none of their bullets hit the licker. The licker threw away the piece of door on his hand and charged at the 4. Artificial Girl is a Japanese hentai dating game where you can adjust the girl to your choosing. Am I dead? Zheng stood there with his eyes out of focus. He remembered in the previous moment that monster out of a nightmare jumped at him. Those huge claws were right in front of his eyes. It would only take an instant, just an instant, to rip him to pieces. Then, am I dead? Zheng stood there looking at his surrounding in a daze. He was standing in an open platform with a huge sphere of light in the center. It lit up the whole platform like the sun. Beyond the edge of the platform was darkness. A kind of darkness where not a hint of light could be seen. Just looking at it for a few seconds made his head dizzy. We lived. Shit, that was close. We finally lived. Jia's voice brought Zheng's mind back. There's him, Jia, Lan, Xiaoyi and a fifth person here. A girl that came out from one of the rooms on the edge. She was crying as she ran toward Jia. This man showed a kind of tenderness not belonging to his character. He ran to the girl, embraced her and started kissing. If you have any questions, just ask God. Communicate to him with your mind. Other than creating your own person, don't exchange anything. Wait until tomorrow. Oh right, choose a room, just imagine how you want the room to look like. He carried that girl and ran to his room before anyone could say anything. Zheng and the others stood there looking at each other, then they fell on the floor. Well, he's strong. He can still run and have energy for some sexy time, Lan said as she was lying on the ground. I was so scared, I still can't move my hands and legs. And he's acting like nothing happened. No one responded her. She turned around to see the two men had their eyes closed under the sphere of light, with a tent on their crotch. Probably designing their women. Two freaking idiots. Men are idiots. We lived through that and experienced so much terror, yet the first thing they think about is perverted stuff. Lan ran toward a room in anger and closed the door with a bang. It woke the two men from their thoughts. They laughed with embarrassment, then closed their eyes and continued. This is a wonderful feeling. As Zheng closed his eyes under the sphere of light, he felt as though he merged into the light. A screen appeared in front of him, similar to a computer program. There were 4 categories of items, and the 6 stats of enhancements, and also showed him the amount of points and rewards he had. Zheng's stats were: Intelligence 107, Mental Capacity 122, Cell Vitality 97, Reaction Speed 131, Muscle Density 112, Immunization 103. It seemed like only his muscle density was a little above average from going to the gym. The extra points from mental capacity and reaction speed were rewards in the movie. He had 6,502 points, 1,000 from the basic mission, 5,000 from the hidden quest, 2 points from killing 20 zombies, and 500 from something else. Create a woman. Create a woman. Zheng was not planning to use his points yet. He recognized the importance of it after experiencing life and death. Even though he had quite a lot of points, he wanted to consult with Jia first. There's only one thing on his mind. Lori, can I create her? God seemed to recognize Zheng's thoughts. It opened up the entertainment category, then the rigid voice said. The first humanoid creation is free. Following creations cost 500 points each. Please simulate the type of being, gender, face, height, age, skin color, race. In your mind. Zheng sunk into his memories. That year when he was still a teen, when he had secret feelings for her. Her smell, her smile, her voice, her memories were still so vivid. So it turned out that my boring life was because of the loss of her. That I was falling into darkness because her hands were no longer holding me. As long as you are by my side, I will never fall to darkness. Tears fell out of his eyes, then disappeared when they reached the ground. When he opened his eyes again, a girl of 15 was standing in front of him. This girl was the same as the one in his memories, Lori. They grew up together. Even though they had grown accustomed to each other to the point where they weren't even aware of the presence of the other person, they were aware of the importance of the other person. Kids that grew up in the urban city were mostly lonely. The doors across the apartments were usually shut. Sometimes you don't even know who your neighbors are even after living there for a few years. Zheng always thought he was fortunate. His parents were bold and forthright. They would invite the neighbors over for food, and coincidentally, their neighbors were the same type of people. This type of people were rare in the cities. And the luckiest thing was he met that girl 1 year younger than him. She was like gifted by the gods. Perfect as a pure crystal. She was smart, kind-hearted, tough, liked to laugh out loud, wasn't scared of any difficulties. He thought that as long as she was there, his heart would never feel cold. But why was human life so fragile? She was only 15 when she was lying on that white bed. Long periods of chemo took away her long hair. That pale face was no longer lively. All that remained was her smile. But he knew that smile was just there to comfort those close to her. What is life? Why did that beautiful smile suddenly turn to ashes? That's not what he wanted. He wanted to see that gentle smile. He wanted to see her rolling on top of him, and talking by his ear. Paddling through a sea of people in a black and white world. He kept falling, rotting, one woman after another, bars, ecstasy, ice, and maybe sooner or later, heroin. As long as you are here, I will not fall. When Zheng woke up, it was already past 11 o'clock. He reached for the cigarette on the nightstand when he touched something soft. Stop, let me sleep a little more. The computer screen, Resident Evil, death, and Lori. Memories were coming back to him. He suddenly flipped over the blanket and there she was. A girl of 15, with traces of tears on her face, and blood on the sheets. Zheng could only remember when he was creating a human, he recalled everything about her. And when he saw her face he could no longer contain the years of suppressed feelings. He's now staring at that familiar face. There were so many things he wanted to say. And before he knew it, he was full of tears. The girl was feeling cold, she reached for the blanket again but couldn't catch anything. She opened her eyes and saw Zheng staring at her. She felt embarrassed and snatched the blanket from Zheng's hand. Then she started crying. Stupid Zheng, you made me so painful last night and now you're teasing me. And I made you breakfast this whole month. You said you would give me a ring when I am 18 and marry me after 22. You idiot, I am not even 16 yet. Zheng shivered as he heard those words. He held onto her hands and asked, Lori, you have memories. You remembered everything. She stopped crying and asked him curiously, what do you mean if I still have my memories? And, Mr. Pervert, please put on your clothes, then go over to my house and get me that green dress. You ripped my clothes last night. Thank God my parents are at work. Zheng was shocked. This girl's attitude, tone, and actions were exactly the same as how he remembered her. Then he realized this room was the same one he lived when he was a teen. Even the details were the same. Oh my God, your parents probably heard our voices last night. They will probably think I am that kind of girl. You idiot, pervert, I don't know how to face your mother anymore. Wait, maybe I've been dreaming this whole time. Everything that happened yesterday, even when you were sick. Haha, that was all a dream. Zheng held onto her and laughed loudly. Then after a while he started weeping. Lori also stopped struggling and held on him tight. Thank God that was all a dream. I don't want a future like that. Then there was a knock on the door. Lori slid into the blankets. Your parents are back, pervert, how am I going to go out? I don't have clothes. Zheng suddenly felt cold. He could recognize someone calling his name, that voice was Jia. In other words, he's not dreaming, the Lori in his arms was just a being he created. He forced a smile. Lori, I will take a look outside and bring you some clothes. Stay here and don't move. Zheng sighed, put on his clothes, and went to the platform. He opened the door and saw Jia and the others. He looked past them and the sphere of light was still in the center. Give me a few moments. He ran towards God. Tell me, God, isn't she a being you created? Why does she have memories? Why is she exactly the same as her? Does she know about this place? What is happening? Zheng asked the questions, troubling him with his eyes closed. After a while, that voice finally replied, she's created by you. Her memories came from your memories of her. Her personality, face and body come from how you remembered her. She's the person of your memory. Zheng was silent for a moment, then continued, I don't understand what you mean, God. I don't care if she's the one that I remember, I just want to know if she's real. The things she says, her actions, her expressions, her tears. Are all these real? Not some program you created, not someone dependent on orders. I want to know if she's a real human. Yes, once a life form is created, unless its owner dies or it gets killed, it is a real living being. Zheng grasped what this was all about. God created a copy of the Lori in his memory. She was Lori, but just a copy. The real person died when she was 16. That's why the copy was only 15 years old, the age that he remembered of her when she was most beautiful. One last question, when I get enough points to go back, will she come with me? The person who exchanges, back to the origin, can retain the following items. 1. All items from exchange. 2. Stat enhancements. 3. Created life forms. 4. Summoned life forms. 5. Genetic changes. The above exchanges will belong to the owner even if he goes back to the origin. Zheng slowly calmed down. He already lost her once. He couldn't do anything but see her die. But this time he had the ability to change everything. As long as he can survive the countless horror movies and earn enough points, he could bring her back to the real world. Then he wouldn't lose her ever again. Jia and the other two were looking at him curiously. He apologized, then brought them to his room. According to Jia, he just had to think in his mind to give them permission to enter his room. Once inside the living room, Zheng thought for a moment. Wait here for a bit, I will be right back. Then he went into his bedroom and closed the door. Lori stuck out her head from the blankets. How did it go? Did your parents say anything? Zheng went over to the bed and caressed her hair, then said in a serious tone, Lori, I have something to tell you. But you have to promise me and stay calm. Okay. She opened her eyes wide and tears started filling up, then she lowered her head. Is it about breaking up? Just like what they said, once a guy got the girl's body, he will change his heart. I thought you were going to be with me. If you are going to break up, then you don't have to say anything. I don't want to hear those words from your mouth. Zheng pulled her over and held onto her. He yelled, it's not what you think. I loved you all this time, even when you were dead for 10 years, I still loved you. Then he told her everything from her death 10 years ago to the peculiar events that just happened. Though he omitted how he lived his life during those 10 years. Lori, you are the real Lori. Yes, I could only watch as death took you away. But I can protect you now. Trust me, I will earn enough points to get us back. Zheng kept talking but Lori remained silent. He had a bad premonition about this. He looked at her but she just kept pinching her arm. Zheng got a hold of her hand. What are you doing? Lori, say something. I know it's hard to accept that the real you died and you're a copy. I know it, but no matter what, don't hurt yourself. If you're feeling upset just tell me. Okay. Lori started laughing and stood up. She put her hands on Zheng's face and pulled it. No wonder. I was wondering why did you look so mature all of a sudden. And so hairy. So that's it. It's good to be alive again. Why should I feel upset? And you, idiot, scared me. I thought you were going to break up with me. If you ever say something so ambiguous again, I will rip apart your mouth. Zheng was shocked, then felt relieved. Right, this was the tough girl in his memory, the one he loved. According to Jia, everything in this room could be changed with his mind. As Zheng's created life being, Lori could change this room also. When she learned of this, she ran to the closet and started taking out gorgeous dresses, then she pushed Zheng out of the bedroom. In the living room, Jia and the other two were staring at him with expressionless faces, but he noticed the corner of their lips twitching. Go ahead and laugh as you like. You look like someone just punched you in the face. Everyone started laughing out loud. Jia said, it's strange you would like girls like this. She seems quite bold. Zheng sat on the sofa and told them her past. I didn't expect this situation. I originally just wanted to create a person that looks like and acts like her. God forbid, I created a copy of her. Jia was surprised. That's incredible. God can actually give her your memories. I have been through 4 movies and didn't know about this. Who knows how many secrets are hidden in this place? Zheng nodded. Right, no one ever mentioned this place in the real world. Get transported into movies, interacting with the casts, and even changing the original plots. Furthermore, the exchangeable items are unbelievable. I can understand things like guns, but enhancements. Do you think this will happen in a real world? They were silent. Zheng exhaled and continued, I don't care if this is God's territory, or a devil's game. I just want to live. Earn enough points and bring her back. None of you probably want to die in the movies, right? I think the 4 of us should form a group. Because no one knows what movie is next, there's a limit to how much a person can do. We can form a team and help each other out. Any opinions? Lan was surprised. Yo, you seem to have changed quite a bit overnight. More so than Xiaoyi who just lost virginity. Is that girl important to you? Xiaoyi's face reddened. Jia laughed at it. What is there to be embarrassed about? You just became a real man. You're actually not bad for creating a blonde. Just be careful not to get dried out. Then he turned to Zheng. I think you're right. We can't confront any movies alone before we get enough enhancements. I've experienced 3 movies so I know how important teamwork is. Sometimes those next to you are just as dangerous as the monsters. Then we will share our information and help each other out. If any newbies want to break apart our team, I advise that we kill them. Lan was shocked. Didn't you say killing a newbie will cost 1,000 points? Jia smiled hideously. Yes, it will cost 1,000 points. But am I going to kill him myself? No, I can just break his arms and legs, or push him into the monsters. As long as I didn't finish him with my own hands, then it will not count. You have any other questions? Lan and Xiaoyi shivered, but Zheng nodded. Right, we won't hurt any newbies intentionally. But if they put us at risk, then I don't mind doing it. I need to survive until I go back to the real world. Now I have something to tell you. Zheng said with a serious expression, I think I know how to obtain side quest rewards. It probably has to do with changing the plot. Like saving a cast member that was supposed to die, or killing strong monsters, or completely reversing the plot. I think you can get rewards by completing these things. Then he told them about his experience saving one, and that he received a rank B reward and 5,000 points. The three of them were shocked and didn't know how to continue. Lan asked cautiously, how many points do you have? 6502 and a rank B reward. They looked at Zheng with envy and jealousy. Jia forced a smile. I risked my life and almost died a few times to get just 4,000 points, but you got over 6,000 in your first movie, and even a rank B reward. Shit, it seems like I will have you carry me next time. Zheng laughed. If you didn't stay with us in the Red Queen's room, I might have just died there. I have to thank you for that. Lan also smiled. We know how to obtain side quest rewards, even though they are difficult, but it's better than not knowing anything. Plus you also get points along with it. That's why you need 50,000 points to go back. It's impossible if you just complete the basic missions. At least we have something in mind now. Jia also stopped being jealous. He knew Zheng was a good enough friend to tell him about this. He smiled. Okay then, I will give you a description of the exchangeable items and stats. We still have 9 days to rest, so we don't have to rush. For the next movie. No, for staying alive, Zheng added silently. He glanced toward his room with tenderness. There are 6 stats you can enhance. From my understanding, intelligence is correlated with memory and your ability to think. Mental capacity is unknown at the moment, because there's no way to test it. Cell vitality affects your recovery rate. Reaction speed and muscle density are obvious, and they're the most useful stats for us. Reaction speed allows you to see objects moving at high speed, and when you reach a certain level, you can even see the trajectory of bullets. Of course your body has to move fast enough, that's what muscle density is for. It increases your strength and toughness. Immunization strength is also an important factor. If your immunization is strong enough during Resident Evil, you wouldn't get infected. That's all for enhancements. We will continue with exchangeable items. I will advise you two to not exchange any items and spend all your points in cell vitality, reaction speed, muscle density, and immunization strength, with a focus on reaction speed and muscle density. Otherwise you won't even be able to keep up with the running. Then Jia turned to Zheng. Since you have enough rewards, you should just go for a genetic and whole body enhancement. But what you want is up to you. Then spend the remaining points on stats and some weapons. You will be the strongest one among us in the next movie, so you should probably also get a magical item. Zheng nodded. That's what I am thinking. Out of all the horror movies I have seen, supernaturals like The Grudge are the most dangerous. Your first one, Nightmare on Elm Street, is the same. So I am planning on getting a weapon that can kill these type of monsters. Though it might be rather expensive. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go check them out, then I will have Nana make you a big meal. The four walked toward the sphere with excitement. Especially since it's the first time for 3 of them. They were going to surpass normal people from now on. Zheng stood under God, then closed his eyes. He experienced that feeling of being connected to God again. First take a look at genetic and body enhancement. The screen focused on support items category, then listed all the possible enhancements. He filtered all of them and only looked at rank B and C enhancements. Even then the number was still in double digits. Spider-Man genetic mutation, rating 83, applicable to movies that require high dexterity. Web shooter can be used in any circumstances. Requires a rank B reward and 2,000 points. High-level chi, rating 87, applicable to movies that require close combat. Can buff stats substantially in short period of time. Requires rank B reward, 2,500 points, and intermediate level chi. High-level werewolf genetic mutation, rating 88, applicable to most movies. Has the ability to transform into a werewolf, increasing stats substantially temporarily. Owner will not be affected by the instincts of werewolf bloodline. Requires rank B reward, 2,700 points, and entry-level werewolf mutation. Vampire count rank genetic mutation, rating 90, applicable to most movies. Has blood energy and access to most blood magic. Rank count increases vitality substantially, can recover from any injury as long as brain and heart are not destroyed. Owner will not be affected by sunlight and silver. Requires rank B reward, 3,000 points, and vampire viscount mutation. As Zheng was looking, a thought came to his mind, then he flipped to the rank enhancements list. And there they were, top level Qi, werewolf mutation, and vampire mutation. These all required their rank B counterparts. God, I have a question, can I choose two bloodlines or genetic mutations at the same time? Yes, but it will have an unpredictable result. The different genetics could absorb or proliferate each other. You have a 70% chance of becoming a non-human being. That probably means monster. Zheng nodded as he made his decision. He separated the rank B reward to 3 rank C rewards. Then one of the rank C into 3 rank Ds. He exchanged for rank D low-level Qi, and rank D vampire baron. Then their rank C counterparts. All he had left is a rank D reward. Low-level Qi costs 500 points, vampire baron costs 800, intermediate Qi 1200, vampire viscount 1500. Shit's too damn expensive. Zheng counted, this had already used up 4,000 points. God forbid, he risked his life to complete a side quest for that. The other 3 people were looking at him in shock. A beam of light shone on Zheng, then lifted him to the air. Countless particles moved from the light to Zheng's body. This lasted several minutes. Jia suddenly yelled, "Honey, come look at Jesus." Lan was acting better than the men. She asked Jia, "Are our enhancements going to be so dramatic?" "No, when you enhance your stats, some particles will float from God into your body, then you will feel stronger." He probably exchanged something amazing. Another few minutes passed and Zheng fell back to the ground. He gave the others a strange feeling. He was just slightly handsome before, but when they look at him now, he seemed a little strangely pretty. Zheng quickly looked at his stats. Intelligence 187, mental capacity 232, cell vitality 321, reaction speed 287, muscle density 302, immunization 331. These stats surprised him. It was only some low-level enhancements, but he was almost 3 times stronger than a normal person. Then he looked at his abilities. Qi and blood energy. Qi is a form of life force, it will recover naturally. As Qi increases, a person's stats increase. Blood energy is specific to vampires. It comes from a power core in the brain and allows vampires to use some blood magic. Zheng finally opened his eyes and saw them looking at him. What's wrong? Did my face change? He panicked a bit and touched his face, then looked at his body. He was afraid genetic mutations would make him a monster. But nothing seemed too strange. Why were you looking at me like that? Scared the shit out of me. They laughed awkwardly. How's it? Tell us what you chose and what are your stats. I separated the rank B reward into rank C and D rewards. Then exchanged entry level and intermediate level Qi. And also exchanged vampire mutation. Then he told them about his stats. The 3 were envious of that. Lan touched her head and said, "Do you think those immortal, ghost, vampires, werewolves in tales and legends are real? They were people that got away from this place. Perhaps this place existed since ancient times. Of course there were no horror movies back then, but there was still horror tales and stories." Lan continued, "Because no matter if it was immortals or vampires or werewolves, their first generations were always the strongest. Perhaps the first gens were people that came from this place, but their descendants gradually became weaker because they lacked the source of power." "Is this possible?" Xiaoyi asked. "Then what about this place? A place that can even give you the bloodline of God. Who could have created this place?" Lan waved her hand. "Perhaps the real God or some devil. Who knows? This whole place is a mystery." "Oh Zheng, did you get any abilities?" "Yeah, Qi and blood energy. But I still don't know how to use them yet. What about you guys, did you get your enhancements yet?" Xiaoyi jumped 6 feet high. Then said with excitement, "I feel like my body's full of power. And I could see everything clearly. How are you feeling?" That said, Zheng felt his surrounding was crystal clear. He could even see scratches on the doors far away. Then he jumped 9 feet high. "Impressive," Lan and Xiaoyi exclaimed. Jia laughed, "Great, hurry up and figure out your abilities." After all, they required several rewards. And look at sci-fi weapons. A rank D reward could get something nice. Your abilities cost 2 ranked Cs and Ds, they must be strong. Zheng connected with God again and focused on sci-fi weapons. It had everything from swords to RPGs and even lightsabers and plasma guns. He even saw a combat robot. It required 20,000 points and a rank a reward. He turned to something more affordable and looked at modernized weapons. Guns were inexpensive, even an anti-air rocket launcher only cost 50 points. But the unlimited ammo counterpart cost 2,000 points. It was 40 times more. Then he looked at the magical items. He played enough games and could borrow info from those games. One-time use scrolls were inexpensive, only cost twice as much as a grenade. A lightning scroll cost 30 points, frostbolt 50. Most of the weapons were close combat weapons. A glowing sword cost 1,000. Zheng considered what weapon he wanted to use. As his stats increased, ranged weapons and sci-fi weapons would become less effective. Perhaps he will get to a point where he moves faster than a bullet or so tough that even a bullet couldn't penetrate him. Or strong enough to kill someone with just a finger. Also considering the fear he had of ghosts and supernaturals, he decided to choose a magical close combat weapon. As he was scrolling through the list, a ring caught his attention. It had the strange name Na. A ring created by cultivation technology. It had a subspace of 1.5 cubic meters and can be activated with Qi and other cultivation-related energy. Once activated, it could create an energy field around your fist. This energy field could damage supernatural beings. Zheng thought this item was totally made for him. Close combat, energy field, and it could be used with Qi. Another surprise was it had a subspace to store items. He could bring more food and medication to movies. Alright then, that's it, even though it's a little expensive. 1,500 points and a rank D reward. He almost used up all he had. When Zheng opened his eyes, a ring appeared in front of him, a bronze ring with a dragon carved on it. Jia asked curiously, something from entertainment category. Is this for that girl? Zheng smiled, then without saying anything, he put on the ring. He felt energy move from his abdomen to his finger, and could sense the subspace on his mind. And this was also his first time sensing Qi. Try and touch it. Zheng held out his right hand with a smile. Jia moved his hand over, then quickly moved away as if he received an electrical shock. Is this an electric shock ring? Lan asked. No, this is a cultivation item. Something created by the Chinese immortals, Xian. It has the name Na and can store 1.5 cubic meters of items, and can also attack supernaturals. In other words, we have something to deal with those movies. Haha. They were looking at him with jealousy again. Zheng knew he obtained everything by luck and any person would be jealous of it. So he used the remaining 1,000 points for medications, antidotes and support items. This made the three of them feel better. Jia said, okay, bring your women and come eat in my house. My wife has executive chef level cooking. God is rather generous on food, you can create any food in the kitchen. Then you will start training with me. Training. Yes, training. Your stats can increase with training. From my observation, people in special forces can almost rival Zheng in stats, they're only missing special abilities. But their combat techniques and endurance are much more refined. Zheng may not win against them in a duel. I've been training during the resting sessions every time. You will also have to learn shooting and everything. I have a training ground in my basement. We will train hard, for the next movie. Not for the next movie. For staying alive, Zheng told himself silently. He needed to live no matter what. And bring his woman back to the real world. When Zheng went to get Lori, he was surprised to see her in a maid uniform. She was so pretty, he thought his soul was sucked away. Lori was humming a song as she cleaned up the room. Since this room was created from the memories 10 years ago, it was rather disorganized. She was doing it so leisurely and looked so beautiful and deliberate. Unwittingly, Zheng walked over behind her and embraced her. Ah! Lori was shocked but quickly calmed down. Because she could smell that familiar scent behind her. She remained quiet for a while, then realized something was not right. Pervert, what are you doing walking like a cat? I knew you were up to nothing good. Trying to scare me, huh? Zheng couldn't contain himself as he watched her talk. He kissed her lips. She struggled a bit then calmed down. Pervert, enough is enough. Look at what time it is. No, I mean even if it's nighttime. And don't kiss me without my permission. Don't touch me and don't do anything perverted. Got it? Zheng tried to digress. Where did you get these clothes? They look rather pretty. He was going to say sexy but then realized she was trying to get away from the topic. Lori started laughing. She seemed to have forgotten her requests a while ago. She held her dress and spun around. How's it? Doesn't it look nice? Only I can design something like this. Yes it is, but isn't this a maid uniform from anime? Her face slightly blushed. What are you talking about? You see here, I changed the decorations on the end of the skirt, and... She started babbling on her dress, then moved on to the decorations on the room. But Zheng was not annoyed a bit. He felt the warmth of a family, something he had not felt for a long time. Then her face turned all serious. Oh right, you will have to tell me what you've done all these years. Don't think you can fool me, you were so experienced last night. So that's it, tell me everything honestly. Don't try to hide anything. Zheng smiled awkwardly. She was a rather petty woman, especially when it came to relationships. So he tried to digress from the topic. Haha. Definitely. Right, I am here to take you to see my friends. When I go to movies I will have to fight along with them. One of them invited us over for a meal. So are you going to change your clothes? Of course, you can't go out with this. Anyway you have to tell me everything when we're back. Understand? After a while, she came back in casual wear. She fixed the wrinkles on his shirt then said, let's go, I haven't been outside once yet. Outside, Lori was amazed at this special place. She pointed at God and asked various questions until they reached Jia's room. Everyone's already there in the room. A blonde sat next to Xiaoyi with the body of a model. A woman with long black hair dressed in cheongsam sat next to Jia. She was fixing Jia's shirt attentively. Then there was Lan on the side, looking unhappy. She snorted at the two men as if she despised them. Then when she saw Zheng enter she snorted again. Jia was talking as he entered. That life creation also includes men. Lan, why don't you go create the man of your dreams? I'm not so silly, unlike you guys. Getting what you can't get in the real world like this. I also never wrote the YY stupidly op MC type of novel. It disgusts me to even think about creating the perfect man. I rather go exchange a vibrator. Xiaoyi was blushing as he heard this. Jia laughed. Stop lying. You're obviously a virgin. I've seen enough women to tell. Lan started to blush also but she remained her cool. That's the difference between men and women. Men wants to have the woman of their dreams then fall in love with them, but women want to fall in love then love that man. Do you think I will be as silly as you and start a relationship with a stranger? As she finished a voice again from behind Zheng, well said. Men are detestable and perverted, they don't know the importance of true love. Lori walked over to Lan and started a conversation with her. Jia looked at Zheng's bitter expression and laughed. You're late, my wife's complaining the meal's gotten cold. Come, let's go eat. Zheng exchanged some high-quality wine from God. Relative to the practical items, these entertainment-related items were so inexpensive. When he got back to the room, his ring was filled with various wine. Jia's wife was sure enough an executive-level chef. Everyone enjoyed the meal. Even though there were only 10 dishes, all of them were expensive items they couldn't get in the real world. From bear paws to monkey brains to various seafood. Jia lit a cigarette. God's especially generous with entertainment, especially food. Even a billionaire in the real world probably couldn't compete with us. We drink wine over 100 years old like water, smoke the highest quality cigarette. For real, if it wasn't for the dangers, this wouldn't be a bad place. You go to the real world when you're bored, then come back here. Zheng and the others nodded. That's why we have to live, survive through all the movies. Then we can choose to live however we like, whether it's go back to the real world or stay here. Jia laughed. Okay, I will bring you guys to the training ground. Take a break and we will start training. You have 9 days then we will welcome the next movie. The room Jia created was huge. He led the other 3 downstairs and left the 3 girls outside. In front of them was an area as big as a soccer field. They were amazed by it. Jia said with pride, I didn't know that you can change the room, but after figuring it out, you just have to focus and imagine on where you want to change while holding the room's handle outside. God will also amend any imperfections you have. Just like this training ground. This training ground was separated into a few areas. There was a target practice field, a long-distance running field, an obstacle running field, and a close combat platform. Starting today, every day from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., 1 p.m. to 6 p.m., and 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. We will train non-stop. We won't see any results on our body with just these few days, so we will start with shooting in close combat. You will also have to run and test your limits. Once you know your limits, you can plan ahead in the movies. Anyway, there is a lot of training we have to do. Jia gave everyone a description of the purposes of each training area. Long-distance running and obstacle running was obvious. Close combat was necessary. Shooting was an important factor in sci-fi movies. Everyone agreed to his plans. Zheng asked, "What about guns? Do we go exchange them for training? Or are we using your Desert Eagle? Didn't I say you can create anything in your room? It's just that you can't take many of these things out of the room. Go take a look at that storehouse. I exchanged a magazine on guns, then created them according to the descriptions. You can also test the power of sci-fi weapons. Even though they are expensive, you should probably exchange for one when you have the points." Xiaoyi exclaimed, then ran toward the target practice field. Lan sighed, "You probably can't create magical weapons in this room, right?" Jia nodded. "No, I kept trying but couldn't create them. God probably put a restriction on this." Lan touched her forehead. "The most difficult movies are probably the supernatural ones. God wouldn't let us get familiar with this type of weapon to increase their difficulty. Anyway, if I have the points, I will probably only get one sci-fi weapon and spend the rest on magical weapons. That's what I am planning." Zheng and Jia nodded, especially Zheng. That 1500 points didn't go to waste. Jia spent the rest of the afternoon teaching them how to use guns. Of course, other than testing out sci-fi guns for fun, they put their focus on normal guns, especially on their shooting accuracy. Lan and Xiaoyi spent the whole time doing target practice. Jia led Zheng to the combat platform. Jia only spent 100 points on his gun and the rest enhancing himself. He probably was also in the army back in the real world. He was much more experienced than Zheng in close combat. It only took a while for him to knock down Zheng. Jia shook his head. "Not enough. Your speed and strength are there, but you can't keep calm. You have much more strength than before, so you can't control the punches you throw. Learn how to control your speed and power the first few days. Then you will have to learn to use your abilities. We will depend on you for the next movie." Zheng nodded. He definitely felt he couldn't control his strength, and he was rather curious about his chi. Was it as amazing as the novels described it? The punches he received from Jia could knock a normal person out, but it was only painful at first. Then he felt a warm sensation moving through his body and the pain dissipated. The four of them had dinner at Jia's room. Then Zheng brought Lori back. On the way back, he was still thinking of the training. He figured out the function of qi. Other than lessening pain, when he spread it through his body, his speed and strength would double. That was the only time he beat Jia in combat. Jia couldn't even do anything against that kind of power. But then he could barely move for 10 minutes. Seemed like this could only be used in danger. Zheng still hadn't figured out how to use the blood energy yet. Since it was on the same rank as qi, it shouldn't be too weak. Ahem. It woke Zheng up from his thoughts. Lori was standing in front of him with a red face. She seemed mad at him. "You're walking with me and your mind is elsewhere. Are you regretting you didn't create another beautiful woman when you saw those two women? I am just a teen, mature women are more attractive, is that what you're thinking?" He held onto her hands and smiled. "I am thinking about this afternoon's training. I will tell you everything if you want to know. Be confident with yourself. You know there were almost 100 guys trying to date you in school. And you know I've always liked you, how could I think about someone else?" She looked at him for a while, then smiled. "Then you will tell me in a bit how you spent these years. You just said you will tell me everything, right?" Zheng was startled, then he forced out a smile. "Good people should be blessed. But am I still a good person?" Zheng knew he wasn't not a good person. Lori's death was too much of a shock to him, and he ended up corrupted. Living in a black and white world, games, bars, one-night stands, drugs. He couldn't imagine how she would react when she learned of it. She was so pure, flawless as a crystal. It reflected his filth. Zheng had prepared for the worst. He sat on the sofa and lit a cigarette, then prepared to tell her. Lori stood up. "That's it, stop. Look at your face, I can guess what you've been through. I don't want to hear it. It will just make me mad." Then she put her head close to his. Pervert, listen carefully. I am back so you will forget all the messes from now on. Those women or other girls. Forget all this. There's only Lori, the only one. Understand? She started crying as she said, I'm sorry, so sorry. I didn't keep our promise. To be together till our hair turns silver. To think about our childhood memories like in the songs. I can forget about you in my memories, but I can't forget this promise. You were probably so sad these years. I was selfish to leave you alone. I'm sorry. Zheng embraced her without a word. All that was left in the room were her cries. But they knew that after all the sadness was let out, what they had left is hope. The past was over and their future had infinite possibilities and hope. Times always goes by so fast when you're happiest. Zheng spent the days training, then looking through the items God had, and his nights watching horror movies with Lori. Yes, horror movies. He found out he could exchange any movie from God. As someone that had to survive through horror movies, it was more important than anything to be familiar with the plots. This lasted for 9 days. Today was the last day they were to stay in this place. They decided to take a rest and wait until the evening when they would be transported to the next movie. But before that, they had one last chance to finish preparation. 11 a.m. Zheng was still in bed chatting with Lori. Then are you going today? Zheng felt a heavy weight. He didn't know what was next. Perhaps a virus, or monsters, or aliens. Once he's in there, survival is not guaranteed. So he didn't answer her. He merely held her tight. Our promise, to be together until our hair turns silver, to think about our childhood, you have to tell me stories, we have to travel in the real world, to watch auroras, to see the statues in Easter Island. So many promises. Tell me you will come back, and finish these promises with me. Lori raised her head and looked at Zheng's eyes until he nodded. Love is like a sand castle. You put it together bit by bit, and have to prevent it from getting washed away. It's difficult and tiring, but when you finish it, you will see how beautiful it is. It's worth spending so much to protect it. He hadn't heard this for 10 years. She always liked to say this, and then looked at him with expectation. He never paid much attention to it back then, but when he heard it again after 10 years, he was moved. Then, please finish the castle. This time we will keep our promise together. Zheng closed his eyes, and when he opened it again, he was determined. He will live no matter what. That's basically it. 3 grenades each person, 1 hemostatic spray, 1 oral antidote, 1 bandage, and an amulet. Thanks to Zheng. These cost 100 points. We wouldn't have the points to exchange for them. Zheng looked at his points with a bitter smile. He only had 276 points left, down from 6,502. But then he looked at all the support items in his ring and felt better. Jia packed his stuff, then put them in his pockets. Even though it's only a few days, but you've trained everything you should. Just remember one point. Everything can happen in movies, so you must be cautious. And try to help others if possible, but if they affect your safety, kill them. Lan and Xiaoyi hesitated, but Zheng nodded. How are we going to the next movie? Do we just disappear suddenly? Jia shook his head. No, when it's time, there will be 20 beams. You just have to stand in one. They sat on the floor in the platform as they talked. Lori and the other 2 women didn't come out to see the departure. Perhaps women were all the same when they had to see their lovers go. After 20 minutes, God became brighter and brighter. Then it shot 20 beams to the ground. A voice sounded inside their head. Enter the beam in 30 seconds. Target locked. Transportation to Alien starts. 1. Alien 1979 is a film about a highly aggressive extraterrestrial creature that stalks and kills the crew of a mining spaceship. The world faded to black. Zheng entered a state of half wakefulness and half sleep. This didn't last long. In the blink of an eye his vision came back. This room wasn't too big, with the ceiling and walls made of steel. Various machines spread out in the room, all of them unfamiliar to Zheng. He looked to the side. 11 newbies lay on the ground. Jia and the other 2 had woken up by now. Jia immediately looked to the ground, then his face turned pale. This is bad. 15 people. You won't get this difficulty in a sci-fi movie like Alien. God must have changed something. Zheng looked at him confused. I've never encountered this situation before. I heard from the veterans that God can change the plot and difficulty of a movie. This happens randomly and usually ends with the party getting wiped. Of course you also get a generous amount of rewards for finishing it. Look at your watch. Zheng and the other two looked at their watches. It showed different data than during Resident Evil. There was no countdown. The only line it had was, "Kill aliens, every member is awarded 1000 points in a rank D reward." Jia took out a cigarette. Any of you still remember the plot? Zheng shook his head. This movie is too old, even though it's a classic and I had seen it before. I forgot all the details already. Xiaoyi shook his head also. I only saw a few of the latest horror movies these few days. Didn't expect God to choose something like this. Lan laughed. You guys are unprofessional. Since our lives are on the line, then you should review even the oldest horror movies. Especially if this dimension existed since the ancient times. I even looked through some horror stories. The plot of Alien. Alien happened sometime in the future. Human technology was advanced enough to support planetary travel. They created colonies in a few galaxies, but unfortunately humanity never found any extraterrestrial life until the start of Alien. A voice interrupted Lan. A young man stood up from the ground. He had a common face and wore glasses, but his eyes looked unusually calm. He gave off a sense of wisdom. Zheng was the first to react. Zheng Zha, welcome. He held out his hand. The man hesitated then shook his hand. Chu Zhan, if you don't mind, can you tell me what is this place? Zheng smiled bitterly. It seems like you are familiar with the plot of Alien. Can you tell us the details first? Zhan sat on the floor. He adjusted his glasses. If you insist. The plot starts on a commercial spacecraft. According to the law, anyone that encounters an unknown signal during space travel has the obligation to investigate, to determine if it's sent by an intelligent species. In the plot, a commercial spacecraft caught such an unknown signal, a frequency that doesn't belong to humans. It may come from extraterrestrial life. According to the law, if they don't investigate it, they will be fined. People on the spacecraft were forced to land on the planet that sent the signal. Indeed, they found the source of the signal. A ruin that might be a spacecraft. They also found the bodies of huge aliens that may have died tens of thousands of years ago, bodies that had fossilized. In the following investigations, they found some cocoons that were still alive. One of the staff touched it out of curiosity. A starfish-like organism jumped out at him, then stuck onto his face. Other people brought him back to the spacecraft. These organisms are aliens. More accurately, the larva form of aliens. They cannot harm anyone physically and cannot stay alive by themselves. They have to find a host. The larva enters the host's body. Even though the host will not look different physically, the larva inside will grow into an alien. When the people returned to their spacecraft, the larva had already grown. It climbed out through the host's chest. The alien at this time was about the same size as a serpent but with a much higher attack power and speed. We will call this the second stage. Then the plot becomes repetitive. The alien hid in the spacecraft and attacked the staff non-stop until it gained enough nutrients to evolve to the third stage. Third stage aliens are almost flawless. Their exoskeletons are bulletproof, their bodily liquid is acidic. They have insane strength and speed. The staff finally realized the disaster they brought. In actuality, that signal wasn't a cry for help. It was a warning, to stay away from the ruin. Then. At this time a voice interrupted Zhan. That's enough already, listening to your bullshit in the morning. What the FCK is this place? The four of them looked at him. The other newbies woke up already. They were looking around in confusion. Three of them, with hair dyed in bright colors, looked at them impatiently. Dressed in hippie clothes, one had piercings in his nose and lips. He said loudly, "Who the heck are you? I was gaming in an internet cafe, how the heck did I get here?" Zheng knew this place took in all kinds of people. As long as you chose yes when asked the question, you would be transported here. Anyone was possible, and he wouldn't be surprised even if the president appeared in front of him. Zheng ignored these three teenagers and shouted, "Everyone calm down. We will explain the specifics later. For now let Zhan tell us the details of Alien." Zhan was inspecting Zheng's group. Then he looked at those on the ground and the surroundings. He nodded calmly. Then the staff naturally wanted to kill the alien. They didn't have many weapons, with the most notable one a flamethrower. Of course, according to my calculations, this close-range high-temperature weapon is rather useless against the high speed and defense of aliens. They can kill you instantly when they close up on you. The teenagers were startled by Zheng's tone. But then they saw Zhan continued the conversation ignoring them and started yelling. FCK, who do you think you are? How dare you give us orders? I recognize you, I know where you live. I can bring people to kill your whole family. Typical hooligans, always talking about killing your family and acting like they know everyone and their addresses. Before Zheng could speak, Jia pulled out his Desert Eagle and pointed it at them. Shut up, this is an important time to gather information, don't make me mad. The teens panicked after seeing the gun. The rest of the newbies immediately moved away from them. Then they started laughing. The one full of piercings pulled out a gun from his jacket. What street you from? Shit, at least get this Model 54 gun if you're getting an imitation. Desert Eagle, you think everyone can buy one easily? It's so easy to tell it's a fake. When the teen took out the gun, Jia pulled the trigger without hesitation. A loud bang and he shot the hand that was holding the gun. The power of a Desert Eagle easily blew his arm in two. The teen was startled. He waved his arm in disbelief, but when the pain registered he started screaming. The other two immediately got on the floor. The realization of a real gun scared them. Then other newbies started screaming. But Zheng noticed a few people remained calm. These people looked at Zheng's group of four silently. He nodded. The newbies weren't too bad, at least these few were calm enough. Xiaoyi went over to pick up the gun. Jia, this is an imitation, not the real thing. Jia nodded and put his gun back. Stop his bleeding with the hemostatic spray, then bandage him up. Oh, and you newbies listen up. Don't point a gun at me, or I will get stressed and do something out of panic. Zheng turned around. He took out a pack of cigarettes and handed one to Zhan. Aren't you scared? That was a real gun. Zhan rejected the cigarette. I don't smoke, it will kill my brain cells. You still want me to continue with the plot details? Zheng smiled, and lit his cigarette. Yes please. The alien was beyond their imagination, and there were less and less people alive. But there's a bug in the movie, and a contradiction to the plot. In the movie's plot the main characters find out one of them was a robot sent to monitor them by the government. The robot's mission was to bring the alien back to Earth, even if it meant the lives of everyone in the spacecraft. So according to the robot, the government had already known about the aliens in that ruin beforehand. Their plan was to sacrifice people on the spacecraft for an evolved one, but is this possible, that the government sent a robot instead of scientists or soldiers? Furthermore, this robot wasn't the leader of the spacecraft, so there was a very high chance of it failing to bring the alien back. What if the staff only took a brief look at the ruin then left? The government wouldn't do something so stupid and chose a commercial spacecraft instead of the army. Zhan adjusted his glasses and continued, I'll use an analogy. A country finds out a hydrogen bomb is buried in the desert within its borders. Then will this country send an army to bring back the bomb or put a soldier within a group of traveling merchants to find out about the bomb by chance as they travel through the desert? Zheng and Jia looked at each other. They finally realized why God pulled in so many people. Because of the bug in this movie, God probably changed the plot and therefore increased its difficulty. They had lost their biggest defense in the movie and wouldn't be able to predict what happens next. Zhan continued inspecting their expressions. The remaining staff planned to destroy the spacecraft and escape through a survival pod. Then 2 more people died before reaching the pod. Only the main character got in successfully, but the alien followed her in. Then she opened the door of the pod and the alien was sucked out into space. She was the only one that survived. Now that I'm finished, can you tell me some things? Like what is this place? If I am not mistaken, this is that spacecraft in Alien, right? When he saw the look of astonishment from everyone in Zheng's group, he smiled. I was just testing, but now I am certain. Can you explain the situation? I can't imagine how I got here. Jia and Lan were about to say something, but Zheng waved his hand and interrupted them. When was the last time you saw this movie? Zhan adjusted his glasses. About 7 years ago. I can still remember something this recent quite vividly. Everyone was shocked, remembering something from 7 years like this. Then what were they? People without memories. Zhan turned to the other newbies. Everyone's probably seen the message, want to know the meaning of life. Want to live, a real life, from the internet, right? People started to answer and their answers all agreed with it. Furthermore, everyone chose yes. This message appeared when I was coding. The crucial part is my computer was not connected to the internet at the time. I was not aware of any virus that could break through the firewall I coded. So I immediately started to crack the origin and source code of this message. And guess what I found out? Zahn adjusted his glasses and continued in a calm manner. This message is not coded using 0 or 1s. The source code is not a computer program. It's created with characters and symbols. If memory serves me right, the characters are a combination of the Oracle Bones script, cuneiform script, and hieroglyphics. 3 of the oldest forms of writing in the world. There are also numerous unexplainable symbols. I was curious. You have to know that when a computer breaks through the limit of 0s and 1s, artificial intelligence will develop. Especially when this message was coded with so many characters. So I chose the option with the most characters and symbols, which happened to be yes. The outcome was miraculous. I ended up here. Even though I don't know what this place is, it should be far away from Beijing. Zheng looked around at the stunned people. To be honest, he was shocked by it also. It seemed like the newbies were impressive this time. And who is this guy? Zheng hesitated, then asked, "Who are you? Why do you think this place is far away from Beijing? If I can't deduce this with my IQ of 220, then I wasted my life. Let me introduce myself again. Chu Zan, Colonel. I was in a secret military base in Beijing, the second top secret base of China. I don't believe anyone can kidnap me out of there. Furthermore, my detector device shows that I haven't left the base, yet I am obviously somewhere else." Zahn showed them his watch. According to him, this watch was specifically designed for top researchers to prevent them from getting kidnapped. It remained connected to the computer in the military base, and sent signals of its location and how far it was away from the base. The only possible explanation is I left the dimension instantly. Since I am in a different dimension, the watch can't connect to the base's computer and thinks I am still there. So it seems like absurd explanation is actually correct. Zheng looked at Jia. "Lan, go explain to them about this place and why we are here." Lan's eyes brightened, then smiled. "Thank you guys. Hee. I will make you guys a meal when we go back. Women are naturally weaker than men physically, so these 100 points can go toward my cell vitality and muscle density." Then Lan explained this world to the newbies and that they were an alien. The watch on their hand shows them their mission: kill the aliens. Of course she kept the information about side quests from them. This was valuable info that only belonged to the 4 of them. Most people either didn't believe it or panicked. Other than Zahn, who was looking around calmly, there were 2 more people looking at Zheng's group. This was when Zheng noticed a Caucasian with a large build. He walked over to these 2 people. "What are your names? Can you understand Chinese?" One of them was slender but had dense muscles. He didn't shake Zheng's hand and took a step back. "You can call me Zero. I don't want to answer any other questions." The Caucasian shook Zheng's hands openly. "Kampilovsky, of course I can understand Mandarin. Just that I am not used to it. Your hands are strong." Zheng then turned to look at the others. Aside from the 3 hooligans on the ground, there were 2 middle-aged fat men, standing together cautiously and holding suitcases. These 2 were probably businessmen that knew each other in the real world. 2 20-something young men. One of them was smart enough to inspect the surroundings, the other was flirting with the woman. Based on their clothing, they were probably white-collar workers. They seemed to have calmed down. Zheng shook his head, then shouted, "Everyone please introduce your occupation, age, and what you're good at, so we can assign your responsibilities properly." These people hesitated. Then Zahn said, "Even though that's what you are saying, we can't confirm those are the truth. Do you have anything to prove you're not lying? Like the things you've exchanged or your physical abilities?" Jia snorted. "You think it's easy to survive in horror movies? Maybe people that lived through 20 movies could satisfy your request. They can definitely penetrate through steel with a punch." Zahn shook his head. "No, you're mistaken. I am not being sarcastic. But for our cooperation to go smoothly, it's better to eliminate our wariness." Then he looked at Zero and Kampa. He added, "Then just let us take a look at the hemostatic spray and bandage." Jia turned to Xiaoyi and nodded. Xiaoyi threw the spray and bandage toward Zahn. Zahn asked again, "Anyone have a knife? The sharper the better." Zheng and his group looked at each other. They actually don't have any close combat weapons. At this time Kampa took out a dagger from his pocket and threw it over to Zahn. Zheng just realized this Caucasian and Zero were focusing on Zahn. Zahn sliced his wrist decisively, as if that hand didn't belong to him. Blood started pouring out like water. Lan and the other woman started to scream as they saw it. The rest of the newbies were startled also. Then Zahn sprayed his wrist with the hemostatic spray. Miraculously, the wound started to clot and the bleeding stopped after a few seconds. Then he bandaged the wound and handed the dagger, spray, and bandage to Kampa. As Zheng's group looked, they noticed Kampa and Zero did the same thing. After they finished, Kampa said, "I am a member of an international mercenary group. A top-ranked gunner. My nickname is Overlord. To be honest, I would rather you to be lying. This is a terrible place." Zero returned the spray and bandage to Xiaoyi, then he said coldly, "I don't have a name, just call me Zero. I am an assassin specialized in long-distance sniping. Unfortunately this movie doesn't require my skill. And there are no sniper rifles here." Zheng nodded and before he could speak, Jia laughed out loud. "Good, your abilities are quite capable. The four of us survived the last movie. I lived through 4 movies and they lived through 1. Though it seems like we miscalculated. We should had exchanged some limited ammo guns, since those are rather inexpensive." Then Lan explained how they would go back to God's dimension after the mission is finished, and the categories of items. She smiled after saying everything. Looks like she got that 100 points. Zhan adjusted his glasses and asked in confusion, "But why is he the strongest one?" He pointed to Zheng. In fact, Zero and Kampa were also paying close attention to Zheng, though they were silent this whole time. Zheng laughed. "You get 1000 points every time you survive a movie, that's fixed. Other than that, God will issue you missions. Completing these missions will earn you extra points. Look at the watch, it displays the mission for this movie and the rewards. I finished a mission in the last movie and was awarded extra points. So I'm a bit stronger than them after spending my rewards on enhancements." Zhan was going to ask more but the only door in this room opened. Everyone looked towards it, yet there was nothing outside. "The movie is starting." Jia immediately took out his Desert Eagle and pointed it at the door. Several minutes passed and there was nothing. Zheng and the rest let out a sigh of relief. Then they saw the 2 middle-aged men walk outside. He was appalled and immediately yelled, "Don't go out carelessly, this is only your first movie. You're much weaker than us and in much more danger than us. Even if someone is to gather information, we should do it instead." Zero sneered, "You think they are going to gather information?" As he was speaking, the young man and woman pair followed out, then the hooligans sprinted toward the door too. Zheng could hear the middle-aged men say, "Hey, he thinks we don't know. Trying to con us with some stage and actors. At least spend more money on the setup. Look at that scrub, if he's an assassin then what am I?" The young man and woman agreed in a low voice. Though the hooligans just ran away without saying anything. In the end, only 4 of the newbies stayed. Zhan, Kampa, Zero, and the smarter young man. The young man walked over to them cautiously. "Can I join your group? Even though everything is unimaginable, but I still wish to stay by you." "Oh right, my name is Li Shuaishi. Occupation, just graduated from college, don't have any occupation yet, but I used to watch a lot of horror movies and stories at home. Oh, and I am familiar with fantasy web novels and various mythologies." Zheng and Jia looked at each other, then he held out his hand. "Welcome to this group. Even though we are not guaranteed to live, we won't give up on our comrades." Jia put his gun back in his pocket, then asked, "What should we do next? We can't just stay here." "Information," Lan and Zhan said simultaneously, then they smiled at each other. Zhan waved his hand. "It's better to have you say it. I specialize in analysis, not as confident in planning out." Lan touched her forehead. Hee, I was a writer, so I am quite confident at devising plans. If I get anything wrong, please remind me. The 4 of us did a brief analysis before you woke up. To be honest, Alien isn't a difficult movie. Since there's only 1 alien in the whole movie. In comparison, it has a lower difficulty than Resident Evil. Both movies can be explained using science. Yet why is Resident Evil a 7-people difficulty movie while this is 15? We believe that the plot changed so the difficulty is raised accordingly. Zhan nodded. Resident Evil 1. If that's the comparison then the hunters in Resident Evil 1 are on par with aliens, furthermore they are in much larger numbers. Your deduction is sound, the difficulty of Alien shouldn't be higher than Resident Evil. If the plot changed, what do you suggest we do? Information, Lan said with certainty. We need to know how much the plot changed, why is the difficulty so high? Also we don't know the real strength of aliens from just watching the movie. We have to fight one to learn his speed, strength, and other variables. Then we can devise a method to kill them. Seeing that Zhang nodded, Zero and Kampa did not object. Zheng also nodded and said, then we will go investigate this spacecraft. It would be best if we can meet the cast, and if we encounter an alien, I will fight him head-on. Jia's Desert Eagle has infinite ammo, if you can, let Zero support me with it. I think I should be able to escape with Chi if something goes wrong. At the same time, they heard a scream from the other side of the hall. The voice belonged to the two middle-aged men and the young man and woman. The 8 of them ran toward the sound source. Zhan, Zero and Kampa's physical fitness was amazing. They kept up in running with the 4 that have gone through enhancement. Only the young man started panting as he ran. Zheng turned around to take a look, then sighed and ran over to take a hold of his hand. Even then he was still exhausted. The scream came from a lobby. The middle-aged men and the other 2 were on the ground screaming in terror. Following where their fingers pointed, 3 corpses lied on the ground. The bodies belonged to a blonde woman, a black man, and a Caucasian. Their faces were twisted as if they experienced intense pain before death. As Zheng's group entered the lobby, the 4 ran to the hall on the other side. Zheng sighed and didn't bother to chase them. He knelt down next to the bodies. After a few looks, his face turned pale. How many aliens were in the movie? Zhan said with certainty, 1. My memory won't be wrong in such a detail. Zheng stood up with a pale face. The 3 corpses under him all had a hole on their chest. This meant that a stage 2 alien came out through their chests. Furthermore, one of the bodies had a hole that covered the chest and abdomen, like an alien several times bigger than average came out of it. An alien that size was terrifying just from imagining it. We are going to face 3. Perhaps more, and bigger, aliens soon.